Hello, friends. I'm Kanchan from Akulmach Technologies, and we are welcome to our show Roundtable, which is a weekly show. Today, we are discussing very interesting topic about the well-being of our children, and we have a distinguished guest today. Uh, we have Indra Sharma, who is a senior teacher, PGT, and senior DAV Public School, Dayanand Vihar, Delhi. Welcome to the show, Indraji. How are you today?
Yeah, good. Nice.
और इसके अलावा हमारे पास हैं जागृति सूद, जो कि बहुत ही अच्छी म्यूजिक टीचर हैं, म्यूजिशियन हैं, गायक हैं, और वो विद्या भवन पंचकुला में म्यूजिक पढ़ाती हैं। तो इस शो में आपका स्वागत है, जागृति।
थैंक यू।
कैसी हैं आप?
थैंक यू सो मच। मैं बहुत बढ़िया हूँ मैम, बहुत बढ़िया। भवन विद्यालय पंचकुला में पढ़ाती हूँ मैं।
अच्छा।
तो
और
हाँ जी।
बहुत मैंने आपकी कई सारी गाने भी सुने हैं। आप नॉर्मली फेसबुक पे कई सारे गाने गाती हैं और उसका जो जादू है वो रिक्रिएट करती हैं। सो इट इज सो गुड
थैंक
टू
यू
हैव
सो
यू
मच
इन आवर
मैम।
शो। तो
थैंक यू।
जैसे कि एवरीबडी नोज
हाँ
दैट टुडे वी आर डिस्कसिंग अबाउट चिल्ड्रन who are supposed to go, maybe they have started going to the school, and a few of the states have also asked declaring that they will be opening their schools for children. So the big question is कि क्या ये सेफ है हमारे बच्चों के लिए अभी एट द मोमेंट स्कूल जाना और रेगुलर स्कूल अटेंड करना, जैसे कि वो पहले बिफोर पैंडेमिक किया करते थे, कि क्योंकि अभी कोई वैक्सीनेशन भी नहीं है, लगी नहीं है। तो आपके क्या ओपिनियन है इस बारे में, इंदिरा जी?
But what time? At some point, we have to open the school. Gradually, we have to open the school. All the children, I think it's 10 months, like they are studying at home. You know? And many students are there, those who are not getting, they are not able to study online also. So we are very excited. The government has taken the decision to open the schools, but we are also a bit nervous. But with all the guidelines, if we follow all the guidelines, I think we can open the schools. Gradually start opening in phases. We can open the schools in
Yes,
phases.
yes. And one fine day, all children they're supposed to go to school because a school environment provide a regular growth. But क्या हम इस तरह के चैलेंज लेने के लिए तैयार है, जागृति जी? When there's COVID and in some part of India there's a bird flu also. तो अभी तो हमारे बच्चे घर के एनवायरनमेंट में हैं, सेफ हैं, पढ़ाई भी चल रही है। तो क्या ये एक सेफ और एक नेसेसरी कदम होगा एट दिस मोमेंट?
मैम देखिए, मेरे विचार से जैसे अभी स्कूल हमारे भी स्कूल खुल गए हैं 9 to 12, ऑब्वियसली 9, 10, 11, 12, जैसे कि बोर्ड्स भी हैं, सबको पता है। तो ऑनलाइन और ऑफलाइन क्लासेस के ब्लेंड में हम लोग जो है टीचिंग कर रहे हैं। देखिए, छोटे बच्चों के साथ थोड़ा मुश्किल है, क्योंकि आप कहाँ तक बच्चों को रोक पाएंगे। जहां तक मैं समझती हूँ, मुझे लगता है कि देखिए स्कूल तो ओपन हो रहे हैं, नो डाउट, क्योंकि एक नीड भी है। 10th और 12th के जैसे कि बोर्ड के पेपर्स हैं, तो ऑब्वियसली ऑफलाइन क्लासेस तो बहुत ज्यादा रिक्वायर्ड है। मगर आप देखिए, स्कूल विद इन द स्कूल प्रेमिसेस तो बच्चों के ऊपर हम कंट्रोल रख पाते हैं। जैसे ही वो स्कूल के गेट से बाहर होते हैं, वहां पर आप उन पे कोई रिस्ट्रिक्शन नहीं लगा सकते हैं, जो कि मैंने देखा है अपनी आंखों से। आप जितने मर्जी प्रिकॉशनरी मेथड्स आप मेजर्स ले लीजिए, स्कूल में सैनिटाइजेशन, एवरीथिंग, जो भी सब कुछ है वहां पे बच्चों के लिए। इवन हमारे जैसे गेट्स पे हमारे स्पोर्ट्स टीचर्स हैं, अपनी पूरी टीम के साथ खड़े होते हैं, पोस्टर्स हैं, क्या कुछ नहीं स्कूल वाले जो है साथ में हेल्थ अथॉरिटीज के साथ मिलकर कर रहे हैं। मगर फिर भी कुछ हद तक आप बच्चों पे नहीं कंट्रोल कर सकेंगे। अगर आप छोटे बच्चों को अगर आप स्कूल में बुलाते हैं, तो आप उनको ना वो शेयरिंग केयरिंग हम इतना कुछ सिखाते हैं स्कूल में, है ना, कि आपको लंच शेयर करना है। बच्चे वॉशरूम भी जाते हैं, तो उनको होता है कि हाथ जाते आते कोई बच्चा मिल गया तो वह जरूर उससे बात करेंगे। अब आप कितनी बार उनको मास्क, इतना हमने एक तरीके से तपस्या की है ये 10 महीने और 11 महीने की, तो वो सब कुछ जहां तक मैं समझती हूँ, मतलब कुछ महीनों की बात और है या कुछ समय की बात और है। तो अगर हम थोड़ा और वेट कर ले पेशेंटली, आई नो, क्योंकि 9, 10, 11, 12 तो चलो है ही, ज़रूरी है उनका स्कूल अटेंड करना। पर वो भी बहुत ज़्यादा प्रिकॉशनरी मेजर्स जो हैं वो दिमाग में रखकर और स्कूल में अप्लाई करके ही उनको बुलाया जा रहा है। ऐसे नहीं कि सभी बच्चे इकट्ठे आ रहे हैं। इवन टीचर्स के लिए भी बहुत रिस्ट्रिक्शंस हैं। तो वहाँ तक तो ठीक है, पर जो इतनी तपस्या 10-11 महीने की हुई है, जो सबने ही सफ़र किया है, मेरे ख्याल से थोड़ी पेशेंस और रख लें तो ठीक होगा ये, जहाँ तक
हाँ
मैं
तो
समझती हूँ।
हाँ, बिल्कुल मैं आपके इस
जल्दबाज़ी
पॉइंट
की
से
ज़रूरत
अ,
नहीं है।
हुँ। आपके इस पॉइंट से
हाँ
मैं
जी।
पर्सनली तो सहमत हूँ, लेकिन जो मैं पेरेंट्स से मिलती हूँ, उनका भी नज़रिया है कि बच्चे बहुत दिन हो गए, क्योंकि ऑनलाइन क्लास में सेल्फ डिसिप्लिन जो होता है बच्चों का, वो हो नहीं पाता है। जहाँ तक देखा गया, पेरेंट्स भी यही कंप्लेंट कर रहे हैं। तो जैसे कि आपने कहा कि बड़े बच्चों के लिए तो ठीक है कि भई 10th में हैं, दे हैव अंडरस्टैंडिंग दैट व्हाट टू डू एंड व्हाट नॉट टू डू। बट छोटे बच्चों
नो
के लिए
मैम, ऐसा नहीं है, अंडरस्टैंडिंग वहाँ पर भी कम ही है। आप देखिए कि खासकर ये जो टीनेजर्स हैं, यंगस्टर्स हैं, छोटे बच्चों को तो आप डाँट-डपट के फिर भी थोड़ा कंट्रोल कर लेंगे कि नहीं बेटा, उनको समझाएँगे, वो ओबीडिएंट होते हैं। बड़े बच्चे, वो आजकल का आप देखिए उनका तरीका कैसा है, वो गले मिल के तो मिलते हैं आपस में। आप गेट से उनको बाहर देखिए, वो आपको बेकरी शॉप्स पे मिलेंगे, वो आपको कोल्ड ड्रिंक पीते हुए मिलेंगे, वो जैसे ही टीचर की नज़रों से दूर होते हैं और वो आपस में हग करके मिलते हैं, बच्चे आपस में हैंडशेक करते हैं। तो आप कुछ हद तक अगर पेरेंट्स भी आप लेने आ रहे हैं, जितनी मर्ज़ी आप कोशिश कर लीजिए, लेकिन कुछ ना कुछ तो ऐसा होता ही है कि जो इतनी महीनों की तपस्या है, वो उसमें कुछ हो सकती है कमी। तो बाकी ऑनलाइन क्लासेस में नो डिसिप्लिन की जहाँ तक बात आप कह रहे हैं, ऑनलाइन क्लासेस में इट डिपेंड्स कि आपके घर का, आप घर में किस तरीके से सिस्टम चला रहे हैं ऑनलाइन क्लासेस लेने का। कुछ वर्किंग पेरेंट्स होते हैं, ऑब्वियसली वो अपने बच्चों पे चेक नहीं कर रख पाते, क्योंकि घर में अवेलेबल ही नहीं है, तो बच्चा पीछे से अटेंड करेगा कि नहीं करेगा, आपको नहीं पता चल रहा। और डिपेंड करता है बच्चों की नेचर पर भी। कुछ बच्चे बहुत सीरियसली अपनी स्टडीज़ को लेके होते हैं, कुछ है कि सामने कैमरा के बैठे भी हैं, ऑफ कर देंगे, खाते रहेंगे या कुछ गाना गाते रहेंगे, कुछ भी करते रहेंगे। मतलब ये जनरल चीज़ें हैं जो हम देखते हैं जनरली एज़ अ टीचर।
तो इंदिरा जी, व्हाट यू थिंक अबाउट दिस
Yes.
क्रूशियल डिसीजन?
At this time, classes for class 11, 12 is very important because they are already having their practicals, board practicals from 1st March. So if they don't come back to the labs, they don't do the practicals, how they are going to do their board exam? So that is very necessary. But with all due precautions, like in the labs also, like with limited number of students, they come to the grounds, limited number of students if they come, that is required actually. That is very much required for 11, 12 students. Initially, I think now only the senior classes are coming, middle and juniors haven't started coming yet. But gradually, as things move on, let's see how it opens. But at present, for 12th, it is very important for
I
12th
also
class.
heard in the
And
news that
for they are having their board exam also. They have been studying online. So once they are back and they brush up their last with their teachers, if they talk to their teachers personally, they'll get motivated. Otherwise, like they are going to sit for the board exam also, not practicals, then board exam also.
yes,
Then they'll gain confidence and they'll get motivated and they'll do better. And but with all due precautions, and they will understand because children also they are very serious about their careers. 12th class children, 11th, they will take. They'll listen to the. I feel
okay. So
they
I think
will.
I've heard, whether I'm wrong or right, I don't know, because I think government has announced that uh, these board exam will not be conducted this year. So
No,
that
no,
is
no,
one. Okay,
No,
okay.
they've already given the dates.
Oh,
Dates,
I
so they
see.
have
3 months
to.
for yes, for board exams, I think May month is decided.
May to June.
May to June, yes.
May, June. June 10th, up till 10th June. 3rd May to 10th June.
Yes, so
Because
that
my
means we
daughter
have
is
a
in
lot of.
+2 and she's having her exams in May month.
Okay, okay, okay.
Oh.
So actually, now we have discussed that we should be taking precautions, and we should let go our children to the school. But as Jakriti has mentioned, that it is difficult to really control the big
Ma'am, for
classes,
junior
children of
classes,
big
I'm
classes.
saying. I am talking about the junior students.
Yes,
Junior
Like
kids.
junior.
those
Yeah.
junior, yes.
So I mean,
And for board exams, they have to come to, attend the
yes,
school. They need to attend the school
yes.
for
So
practicals and
I know. So, what are the precautions at parents' side parents should take? What they should really take care when they are sending their children to the school?
ma'am, you are asking me?
Yes.
Okay. See, I take junior section, right? I
Mm.
take third, fourth, fifth, sixth. सो जहाँ तक बड़े बच्चों की अगर आप बात कर रहे हैं तो जैसे हमारी स्कूल में भी बुलाने से पहले कंसेंट मांगी जाती है पेरेंट्स से तो हम लोगों ने प्रॉपर एक पेरेंट्स के साथ हमारा सेशन हुआ था एज ए पेरेंट मैंने वो अटेंड किया था तो वहाँ का मैं आपको जरूर बताऊंगी कुछ पेरेंट्स तो बहुत ज्यादा चाहते थे कि हमारे बच्चों को बुलाया जाए स्कूल और कुछ पेरेंट्स जो थे वो बहुत ज्यादा अगेंस्ट थे कि नो अ बिग नो फ्रॉम देयर साइड कि नहीं हमको तो नहीं भेजना है कि जब तक वैक्सीन नहीं आएगी पर मैंने ये देखा है कि देखिए अब हम रोजमर्रा के काम तो कर ही रहे हैं ना बच्चे मार्केट भी जाते हैं हमारे साथ घूमने भी चले जाते हैं क्योंकि बहुत ज्यादा टाइम अप हो चुका है और बच्चे भी फ्रस्ट्रेटेड हो चुके हैं तो एज पेरेंट्स की तरफ से हमने उनको जो मतलब जो सजेशन हमारे स्कूल अथॉरिटीज की तरफ से दी गई थी वो यही दी गई थी कि आप उनको खुद छोड़ने आए खुद लेने के लिए आए गेट पे आप अवेलेबल होने चाहिए उनकी क्लास ओवर होने के बाद और स्कूल की तरफ से था कि जब स्कूल ओवर हो जाता है तो हमारी पूरी जो टीम है वो अपॉइंटेड होती है अलग अलग पॉइंट्स पर ये मेन गेट से लेके पूरे रास्ते तक वहां पर उनको कैसे उनको भेजना है सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग उनकी पूरी ध्यान रखना है मास्क होने चाहिए सैनिटाइज होने चाहिए उनके हाथ बार बार फिर उनके हर बच्चे के साथ कोई भी बच्चा अगर आपको बात करता आपस में दिखता है तो अलग अलग वहां पे अपॉइंट किए हुए थे तो ये चीजें हम स्कूल की तरफ से तो ये सब हो ही रहा था पेरेंट्स से अथॉरिटीज ने ये उम्मीद की थी कि वो गेट पे अवेलेबल होने चाहिए जब स्कूल ओवर होता है बच्चा निकलता है क्योंकि बाहर आपको नहीं पता क्या करेगा बच्चा तो आप टाइम से आइए और टाइम से बच्चे को लेके चले जाइए और इससे ज्यादा तो मेरे ख्याल से क्या कर पाएंगे और यही पेरेंट्स की साइड से तो यही उम्मीद की जा सकती थी बाकी जब तक बच्चा स्कूल में है तब तक स्कूल की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी बनती है वो पूरा ध्यान रखा जा रहा है
So,
और
Indraji,
वैसे भी
what is
फेजेस
yeah? So, Indraji, what is
नहीं नहीं मैम
your advice for the parents who are willing to send their children to the school?
I think just 11, 12, I think they will drop their children by themselves. They should come and leave their children at the gate so that they are not exposed to like local transport. So they may get any attacked by the virus. So they should leave the children at the school. And at the school, the teachers, they are very methodical and they are very like they do take care. They follow all the guidelines which are provided, all the like masks, sanitizers, whatever at the gate, everything. They'll have all the system in the classroom. Less number of students. There also, like after they can call only 12, 10 to 12 students, and then there is enough. They can leave one desk and then sit because they are not going to call the whole group. And whole group they won't call. They can leave one desk and they can sit. So and they'll be there is those who are not coming to the school, the parents those who are not willing to send their children, they have webcam in the classes, So those who are studying online, they can study online also. In school also, many arrangements they do make. They have medical room. They have mostly all the schools. They have doctor. They have nurse. They have doctor, and once the child is not well, they can send the child there, and they have everything. They have, like, for precautionary, they should have one oxygen cylinder. Mm. And one thing, they should not be exposed to school in for, like, earlier we used to have 5 hours, 6 hours school, but 2 hours coming to school for 1 hour, 2 hour, it should not more than that, because otherwise it becomes too late, and they'll be wearing mask and in school they get bit suffocated. They can't wear the mask. So 2 hours, 1 or 2 hours is sufficient. I think.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. So Jagriti, I have understood the points and what Indra is mentioning, and you also mentioned that school authorities are very cautious and they are taking lot of care when they are calling children in the school. But see, today is the era of internet. Today everything is on internet, and we think that everything will be on net. And we also think, because now the coaching of IAS is also being done on net. There's so many things which has come on online platform. So do you feel that going to the school will benefit, and not studying
Sorry,
at
ma'am.
home?
May there is some call, so I was disconnected for a moment.
Okay, no problem.
Can
What
you
I am
please repeat
saying,
the question?
yes, मैं आपसे ये बोल रही थी कि अभी तो आप जानती कि सारा ऑनलाइन ही जा रहा है, प्लेटफॉर्म ऑनलाइन
हाँ,
प्लेटफॉर्म
इंटरनेट
पे
पे
सब
आपकी
कुछ
बात
शिफ्ट
मिस
हो
हो
गया है.
गई थी। हाँ जी।
Huh. Even government, even Modi is also saying that you should come on online platform, use more and more online platform. Now, when we are saying that children should go and especially for 10th board, but what is your advice to the parents, Jagriti, जो नहीं चाहते अपने बच्चों को भेजना, वो एक एक्स्ट्रा रिस्क अपने बच्चों की लाइफ के लिए नहीं लेना चाहते कि वो जाएं स्कूल, सो दे आर द चिल्ड्रन आर स्टेड बैक. तो उन बच्चों में और जो बच्चे जो स्कूल जा रहे हैं, उन बच्चों में क्या डिफरेंस आप सोचती हैं एज ए टीचर? क्या बेनिफिट होगा बच्चों को जो स्कूल जा रहे हैं, और क्या कोई नेगेटिव इम्पैक्ट है उन बच्चों के लिए जो ऑनलाइन क्लासेस ही कर रहे हैं, स्पेशली दोज
देखिए
10th
मैम,
एंड 11th वाले?
देखिए अभी तक तो पूरी तरीके से स्कूल खुले ही नहीं है, फॉर जो है ये सीनियर सेक्शंस के लिए ही खुले हैं। 10th 11th 12th 9th 10th 11th 12th जहाँ तक मुझे पता है और जहाँ तक मेरी नॉलेज है, सभी स्कूल्स नहीं खुल रहे हैं। जूनियर सेक्शंस के लिए तो बिल्कुल भी ओपन अभी नहीं किए हैं। जहाँ हमारे एरिया में तो अभी नहीं हुआ है। जैसे कि मैं पंचकुला रहती हूँ, तो जहाँ तक मुझे पता है ऐसा कोई स्कूल अभी तक तो नहीं सुना है मैंने जहाँ पे छोटे बच्चों को बुलाया जा रहा है। बाकी रही बात 9th 10th 11th 12th की, वहां पर भी कुछ बच्चों को फ्री, देखिए 3 तरीके से कैटेगराइज किए हैं बच्चे उन्होंने। एक जो बच्चे जिनको बहुत ज्यादा नीड है या जो नहीं, जो बहुत वीक है, कुछ उन बच्चों को एक्स्ट्रा क्लासेस दी जा रही हैं, तो उनको भी 4-4 5-5 के ग्रुप में ही बुलाया जाता है। इससे ज्यादा बच्चे नहीं बुलाए जा रहे हैं। बाकी ब्लेंड के साथ क्लासेस चल रही हैं, ऑनलाइन एंड ऑफलाइन। और 11th 12th जैसे कि मैम ने ही, इंदिरा मैम ने बताया अभी की प्रैक्टिकल्स के, तो ऑब्वियसली दे हैव टू कम टू द स्कूल, दे हैव टू अटेंड द स्कूल। लेकिन वहां पर भी ग्रुप्स में ही बच्चों को बुलाया जा रहा है। ऑल्टरनेट डेज पे बुलाया जाता है 10 to 20 के ग्रुप्स में, जिसमें रूम्स का भी ध्यान रखा जाता है कि एक क्लास अगर यहाँ है तो दूसरी क्लास 3-4 क्लासेस छोड़ने के बाद ही वहां पे बिठाते हैं। टीचर्स के भी इवन कैमरास लगे हुए हैं, टीचर्स के लिए बार बार उनको सैनिटाइज उनके हैंड्स करवाते हैं। तो ऐसा सब जगह स्कूल खुल चुके हैं, क्योंकि जैसे ही बच्चे स्कूल आते हैं, कोई ना कोई, अगर आप न्यूज कोई ना ही जाता है जिसमें कि कोई कोरोना केस आ गया जी, स्कूल फिर से क्लोज हो गया। तो जहां तक मेरी तो मैंने जूनियर सेक्शन के तो पूरी तरीके से स्कूल ओपन हुए ही नहीं है। गवर्नमेंट का भी ऐसा जहाँ तक मेरी नॉलेज है और जहाँ तक मैंने सुना है, अभी समर्स के जो हमारी समर ब्रेक होगी, शायद स्कूल खुलेंगे भी, अगर जूनियर सेक्शंस के लिए तो वो तभी खुलेंगे। गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स में कुछ ऑर्डर आए थे, ज़रूर थे, वहाँ पर भी पूरी तरीके से स्कूल नहीं खोले गए। हाँ, बट 9, 10th, 11th, 12th के लिए तो ऑब्वियसली, क्योंकि वो रिक्वायर्ड है तो बुलाना ही पड़ेगा, बट विद द ब्लेंड ऑफ ऑनलाइन एंड ऑफलाइन बोथ।
ओके, तो मैं यही जानना चाहती थी कि उन लोगों के लिए जो पेरेंट्स हैं जिन्होंने अलाउ नहीं किया है, उनके बच्चे 10th, 11th, 12th में हैं, लेकिन वो फिर भी बहुत डरते हैं, अलाउ नहीं कर रहे हैं बच्चों को जाने के लिए स्कूल, तो उनके लिए कोई डिसएडवांटेज है क्या, जो बच्चे स्कूल नहीं जा रहे हैं? तो
मैम, वो भी मैं आपको इसका भी एक बड़ा मजेदार किस्सा सुनाती हूँ, अभी जो रिसेंटली मैंने खुद देखा है। अब हमारा मीटिंग चल रही थी, तो उसमें एक पेरेंट कह रहा था कि हम तो बिल्कुल नहीं भेजेंगे अपने बच्चों को, हमने इतना ज्यादा हम तो वैक्सीन की वेट करेंगे और उससे पहले हम नहीं भेजेंगे, क्योंकि उसका उनके बच्चे जो उनका बच्चा था वो बहुत इंटेलिजेंट था। और वहीं पर एक हरियाणवी पेरेंट भी थे, जिन्होंने बोला कि अरे मैडम जी, हम तो कह रहे हैं कि आप बच्चों को बुलाइए, और इतना बड़ा आपका स्कूल है, आप किसी भी कोने में बच्चों को बिठा दीजिए, एक को यहाँ बिठा दीजिए, एक को ग्राउंड में बिठा दीजिए। तो ये बड़ा मजेदार किस्सा था, उस टाइम पे सब बहुत हंसे भी इस बात पे, क्योंकि उनका जो बच्चा था वो बहुत वीक था स्टडीज में। और वो फिर देखिए, मतलब अगर हम इसको सीरियस नोट पे लें, तो कई बार क्या होता है कि देखिए, ऑनलाइन क्लासेस भी इतना इजी नहीं है अटेंड करना, ये तो है ही। किसी का घर छोटा है, किसी का घर बहुत बड़ा है, किसी के घर में फैमिली मेंबर्स ज्यादा हैं, किसी के घर में डिवाइसेस नहीं है, तो इट्स नॉट इजी टू टेक ऑनलाइन क्लासेस आल्सो। तो वो चाहते हैं कि देखिए जी, हमारा घर, उनका उनका कहना था कि हमारा तो घर भी
ऐसे
गवर्नमेंट से मिला हुआ है, हमें 3 कमरे हैं और
मतलब
बच्चे मेरे 3 हैं, मैं किस किस कमरे में उनको बिठाऊंगा। सो अपनी अपनी प्रॉब्लम्स, अपनी फैमिली प्रॉब्लम्स, अपने सर्कमस्टांसेस, सिचुएशंस, इट ऑल डिपेंड्स कि तो वो लोग चाहते हैं कि जी आप ऑफलाइन ले लो, उनको अगर जिनको नहीं है खतरा। कुछ लोग हैं, कुछ पेरेंट्स बहुत ज्यादा कॉशियस रहते हैं, कुछ जो पेरेंट्स हैं वो बहुत ज्यादा अवेयर हैं, है ना?
pick
तो
a
इट
time. We
डिपेंड्स करता
start
है
now.
एजुकेशन के ऊपर भी।
Pick a time.
तो
तो
मतलब मैं तो यही
हाँ, तो फिर इंदिरा, आपकी क्या राय होगी? व्हाट इज योर ओपिनियन फॉर पेरेंट्स ऑफ दोज पीपल हु दोज चिल्ड्रन who are not going to the school? Indra? Okay, so what I feel is that as my me as a parent, I feel that I should, as you mentioned, Jagriti, it should be blend of both online and
या
offline. So,
या
and if the parents are not willing to send their children to the school, I think we government and the school has already made an arrangement कि आप भाई ऑनलाइन भी आप पढ़ सकते हैं, ऐसी कोई दुविधा की बात नहीं है। तो इंदिरा जी, आई वुड लाइक टू आस्क यू कि आपके क्या ओपिनियन रहेगी उन पेरेंट्स के लिए who are not willing to send their children at the moment to the school?
Simultaneously, they are having online. They should have a choice. It should be mandatory. If they want to study online, they can study. It should not be forced. It should not be. Who knows what is their problem? Maybe at home they are having old parents or their problem, no? But choice should be given. It should be respected. Their decision should be respected. And online they can study. No problem at all.
So I just summarize today's discussion is like that though the schools are opening and school managements who are asking the children to come to the school, they are taking proper care about sanitization, about mask, and they are fully aware the danger of this disease, and they are taking care of that. And simultaneously, what I feel that the choice is given, as Indra has told, that we cannot force this decision that you have to send your student to the school, and if somebody wants to study online, तो उसके लिए हर चीज मुहैया कराई हुई है स्कूल मैनेजमेंट में भी, और वैसे भी जितनी भी एजुकेशन वो दे रहे हैं आजकल, दे आर ट्रेमेंडसली गुड, व्हाट आई हैव नोटिस्ड. So it was so lovely to talk to you, both of you. We'll meet again with some other interesting topic next time. Thank you very much for your opinion and for your time. Bye bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Hello friends, this is Akulmach Live and I am Chandrakant. And our section today is you should have learned everything in school, but you didn't. And in this section, we are going to discuss that the kids are being taught computer science at such a young age of 5th standard or 6th standard. The kids today in India at least are learning Python. They are becoming programmers. And what is the cause and effect of that? To discuss this very important subject, I'll be joined by a very senior industry colleague of mine from UK. Before I start this, I have to tell you that now you can get connected with us by pointing your camera on this QR code from your mobile and you will get instantly connected with us. So don't go anywhere, friends. I'll join back after a short break along with my guest. Friends, have you ever wondered that making a lasting impression online is similar to landing on the moon? If yes, we have a solution for you. Akulmach Genius program will help you prepare for your upwards trajectory towards success in the digital world. Our program consists of 12 unique tailor-made sessions of 1 hour each, spread over 6 weeks. Akulmach Genius program provide you practical knowledge about how to optimally use online video platform with lights, action, camera, as well as crash course in using virtual screens. The program also includes a session on the grooming and online etiquettes, which are important for running your online sessions and webinars. At the end of the program, our participants would be allowed to make their own videos, which will be published on a very popular business channel called Akulmach Live. This will provide global recognition to all our participants. If you like what you hear, then using the link in the description below, join the program straight away or visit www.akulmach.com and click on Genius program to know more. Welcome back, friends, and we are starting another edition of Everything You Should Have Learned in School But You Didn't. And to discuss this, I am joined by my greatest friend from UK, Mr. Naval Gun. How are you, Naval?
Good morning, CK. I'm very well, thank you. And good morning, everybody. Everything you should have learned at school but didn't. My goodness, that's a huge topic, isn't it? And the older you get, the more you realize what you should have learned at school. But the question is, were you taught it? Who knows? But we're going to talk about a subject today where a country, let's call it India, because that's the country it is moving ahead in the IT world, in the digital world. Because for the last few years, school children as young as 4 or 5 have been learning digital skills, proper IT skills. And we all know that if you learn a new language when you're very young, it starts to stick, and all of a sudden you know 2 languages. Well, we're talking about the language of IT today. So, CK, why don't you just give a little history of what's been going on in India over the last 4 or 5 years? Because this isn't a yesterday phenomena. It's been happening for a few years. So over to you.
Well, Naval, I think from class 1, when the child is merely 5 years old, they introduce a subject called computer science in the curriculum. And as part of the subject, they taught the child across the board Windows, how to do this, how to do that, how to open a file manager and all that in class 1. And in class 2nd, they were teaching the child for a couple of classes, like 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. They were teaching child how to use MS Office, how to create Word, presentation, and all that. And they actually asked children to basically do the project and create different kinds of presentation with animation in it and all that. So they became very mature pretty fast. And in the 4th standard, they started teaching Scratch. So the schools are teaching Scratch, and as a result of that, there are numerous freelancers, teachers who are also teaching Scratch. So just in case, if the concepts of using Scratch is not clear in the classroom, then there are freelancers, teachers who can train your word, and that's how you actually pick up the programming skills and try to understand the underlying logic. And in the middle school, they've introduced a language called Python, which is an easier language. But personally, I feel that the logic is not very strong at that age, because the heart of all programming languages having the ultimate logical mind. So my opinion is, I think they are introducing all these things quite early without building the foundation of having a logical mind. Because language is very simple. You just have to remember 50 commands and you can pretty much program anything. If you have a very logical mind, you can program very complex application. If you don't have a logical mind, you probably take more time. But the fact of the matter is, the kids are now learning programming language in the middle school, which is at the age of 10 to 15. That is a bracket of disciples here in India.
Well, that's a very good overview of what's been happening. And as you say, you've proven it wasn't instated yesterday. It's actually been around for some considerable time. So you have to congratulate the education system in India for doing something that's more relevant to today's business world. Because one thing that you and I keep on harming on about here is that what's the purpose of education? In other words, why education? And ultimately, the why of education is you've got to stand on your own 2 feet. You've got to be able to create your own income, live in your own property, and get on with your life. Because the bank of mum and dad will cease at some time in the future. The reality is, I've got some 35-year-olds living away from home, and the bank of mum and dad is still there if they need it. But the point is, they do stand on their own 2 feet, and they do want to do in their own life. So the purpose of education for me is to be able to live independently and have fun, enjoy your life, do something to take advantage of the number of years you're going to be on this planet. So in other words, give something back. And I think, as we've been seeing over the last at least 10 years, that IT, as you and I recall it as information technology, all those years ago, probably in the 1980s, when the concept of IT was introduced to us, and the thoughts of having a computer in front of us, like we're sitting in front of currently, that's a computer. It wasn't in the English language, it wasn't in the dictionary back in the 1960s or 70s, but certainly is today. And the key thing is, when do you introduce this new language? Because that's what it is. It's a computer language. And how do we get the best out of that language for everybody? Well, I'll be honest with you, I have no intention of learning a language like Scratch or any other IT language. I do remember some of Fortran and Algol 68R, which really does date me. But as for the new languages, I'm not really into. I've got no interest in it whatsoever. But young people today, everything's going to be in that type of world. So they're going to be exposed to it. It's a bit like saying, you need to learn English because English is the business language of the world. And I know in India, you have English classes. Funnily enough, in England, we have English classes, but they're probably slightly different English classes. And it's all about, in some respects, structure and vocabulary. And vocabulary comes from a dictionary. So, in other words, learn the language, but need to know about the structure, how to structure it. There's a pretty famous English teacher in the UK that talks about the apostrophe S, when to use it, when not to use it. And she uses it in line with a comma. And it changes the whole interpretation of a phrase if you put commas or the apostrophe in a different place where it would be expected to go. And again, in any language, any computer language, I don't know about you, but they still call it syntax. Is it still called syntax? There you go. You can get the syntax wrong. And you can get yourself in a loop, de-loop, and never actually get out of it. But the thing is, the question we need to ask, CK, is it working? How long has it been in the new era, in the new education era? And what results are they getting from it? Are we actually seeing news articles about, super kids that have created a new app at a young age or something like that? What's come out of this program of change that we can actually tap into?
Well, Naval, I think the biggest challenge parents are having, which is like relearning what they did in the school, because of the name of the program is you should have learned in school, but we didn't. So in my case, I did my computer science at a ripe age of 20 years. That is when we got introduced to different languages. And fortunately for me, I was a C++ programmer, not C++, C programmer, which is the ancient brother.
I remember. Yeah.
Right. So, and because of that, the logical mind of how do you create a program is very strong. And but then, for many years there was no need to do any programming, and I have not done. But the logic is like, there is, if this condition, else this condition, all that loop, and the syntax is very clear, and that gives me advantage over other parents, that I can pick up any language. And because of this change in the curriculum, and we have to teach our children, I have downloaded a fresh new compiler called Android Studio, and that will give me a chance to create something new, some other application in my free time, and also be able to help the kids with their programming challenges, because programming is not easy. They will come up with some question, and I don't want to look like, hey, parents don't do anything about our subject. So I want to know exactly, in case this gets stuck, I should be able to help them out. It's pretty much like mathematics. Hey, the dad doesn't know how to add things. I don't want, that kind of statement coming from the kids. So I think that is a real change which is happening now. And kids have to have logical mind. Again, I'll say that, I think their logic is not so well developed. So they have to get, apart from teaching language, they also they must introduce logic development classes also in the school. That's what my feedback would be.
Well, I think you're right. I mean, because learning a new language is a component of two parts: being able to speak it and being able to write it. So being able to speak it, you don't necessarily need an in-depth arena of structure. But being able to write it means you do need an in-depth structure. And the interesting thing is, when we come to programming, It's not about speaking, it's about writing. So in many respects, I totally agree with you. You do need to have a logic flow, a structure around it. In certain languages, in German, I seem to recall TMP, time, manner, place. And that's the structure of the written and the spoken word. And if you get them mixed up and you start to talk to a German, they'll look at you as though, what planet have you come from? Other languages, like English in many respects, you can almost do anything you like with regards to structure. But then again, when you're in a very formal arena, you need to know what that structure is. So I think my question is, what evidence now have we got from the education system that a change is happening? I know this has only been around for a few years, but the key thing is the rest of the world will be looking at what India's done, and indeed, what China and Korea have done, because they've been doing this for some time. And are we treating IT or computer science, as I sort of prefer to call it, because it's a bit of a wider topic, are we just treating it as a subject? So that the answers at the back of the book don't look because it's cheating? Or are we treating it as this is fundamentally what you need to do and know to have a future life? So, for instance, we all need to know how to use Word, Microsoft tools, MS Works, etc. And project management comes out of there because there's a tool for that. And these are all great tools to help us succeed. To be honest with you, I can't remember the last time I created a spreadsheet. It was a few years ago, and it was quite a complicated spreadsheet, a nested spreadsheet, as I recall. It was on a financial consolidation projection system. But I use it all the time. So it's not that I've created it now and I use it and I create more and more and more, but I use it. And so therefore it becomes a good tool. And I think as we get older, let's just talk about young people. They need to know the difference when you go to their toolbox. What's the difference between a screwdriver and a wrench, a hammer and a chisel? And that once you know that these tools have uses, then you can apply that tool to whatever you're doing. I hope this is making sense. I mean, but it's really as simple as that. You don't ask a painter to paint a wall without a paintbrush. Because otherwise you're just throwing the tin of paint over the wall and then smashing it all over with your hands. I do hope that from this IT arena that young people are learning something about how it can make their life easier, when they become adults in their future life. And I hope they're enjoying it. That's the other thing. So as I say, have you seen, your kids are right in that age group. In fact, I think your daughter's probably one of those that have been learning Python. I mean, how do they feel about it? What's their take on it? Are they excited by IT? And consequently, how is the level of excitement different from any other? Bit of a big question, really. But you've got two young kids and they're going through it. So what do you think? Where are they?
Neville, you mentioned about English as a subject. So let me start by informing you that, we have 3 languages compulsory in any school. So which is English, Hindi, and one of the local languages. And these are all compulsory. So English is, easy language for Indians to learn. Hindi is twice as difficult. And it is quite funny because it's our mother tongue, but it is twice as more difficult than English. And the third language is even more difficult. And now you have a computer language. So I think to answer that, they are definitely enjoying, but there is more workload. They keep getting confused with different languages, English, Hindi, and English is quite easy for kids to pick up. Hindi is quite tough because, you know, it's much more complicated language. And then the most complicated is the Python, you know, because if you don't have logic in your mind what you're doing, then it becomes very troublesome. So I think that is where the kids are, and every kid is not similar, because my younger one can actually write Python code even though he is not studying. But my daughter faces some problem. I'm sure out of 40 students in a class, not everyone will be able to write Python. They can probably copy it and feel very good about, you know, something running on the screen. Hey, I created this triangle which is now going like a snake. They can do all that. But I think the idea has to come in from the logical mind. And that is why even for language, like for example, Hindi, to speak proper Hindi, you have to have a very logical mind, because as you said in English, if you change one apostrophe, a comma, the meaning changes. Similarly in Hindi, if you just miss one line, it means totally different and sometimes very obscene. So you have to be very careful with languages, and also true for Python as well.
It's very true, but I think one of the beautiful things in the IT world is it is cut and paste. I mean, the majority of people have done this before, and so you can actually pull down a bit of code and use it and see what happens. So I think the nice concept of open source and sharing. And in fact, Tim Berners-Lee, you know, the creator of the internet, that's what he wanted to do. He wanted people to utilize it, share it, use it as a tool, get the benefit out of it. Unfortunately, as we know, the internet has become something else, and people are subject to grooming, and you need to be more resilient. And I think that's an area where that can be brought into place now, because let's just look at, you know, one of the benefits of learning IT languages at a young age. You can see the benefit of the tool, but hopefully teachers realize that young children in particular need to be building up their resilience around using these tools, using the internet. And do you see any evidence of that coming through when teachers are teaching this new language, or is it purely technical and clinical and a bit like the chemistry lab or the physics lab, where here's the cause, here's the effect? Or is there more to it outside of the traditional development of learning a language?
Well, I think in terms of Zoom, Microsoft, Word, and presentation tools, I think they have kind of, for their age, they've kind of become pros. Not so much in Excel, because Excel can be very complicated, and also not so much in PowerPoint. But I think in Word, and you know, they can do most of the basic stuff. When it comes to programming, I think it's all cookie cutter, as you said, cut and paste. So teachers tells them to do this, copy this code, learn the concept behind each command. So they are not able to come out with an idea by themselves and create a program to do things. For example, when we were learning, we were given task of creating a diary software, for example, where the software should be able to store a date, a calendar, and the name of the person, addresses probably. So you have to create database, you have to create the program, and you have to create interface for creating a normal stuff like a diary. So things like that. I don't think they have reached that level of imagination where they can create programs by themselves.
Well, I think that I mean, that's the next logical way forward, so that they can actually take a stand back and say, why am I doing this? What's the desired aim? Rather than just making a triangle do flips and, you know, jump through hoops, which is all great. I mean, you know, it's really good to see that you can do things and write things to make that happen. But sooner or later, I mean, we're going to get young people really focused on this question, why? And you remember your children before they went to school, CK, when you were going on holiday or even going down the shops and they're in the car, are we there yet? What's that? Why is that happening? Why are we doing this? What's over there? And kids are great at asking questions. And eventually, I think what we'll do here is by this new language, because it is a language, let's face it, it's simple. It's a language and it's a tool to a result. Once they really start to learn it, they're going to ask the question, why? And I hope teachers are prepared to answer the big question, why am I doing this? What's in it for me? Where's this going to take me? Why do I need to learn this? How will Python affect the rest of my life? What's the point of Microsoft tools? These are huge questions. And 4 and 5-year-olds probably asked them, but never responded to. But let me tell you, once you get to a teenager, we need to be prepared with those answers. And a lot of the answers are going to come from the individual. So if they say, how's Python going to impact the rest of my life? A smart teacher might say, or a parent might say, well, what do you want to do with your life? Where do you see yourself, when you're my age, or even half my age, or your uncle's age, And therefore, it gets them to think a bit more about the question they've asked. And that's maybe when good communication between teacher and child and parent and child and even grandparent and child will start to come to fruition. And we will get to think, because that's another part of introducing this IT wonderful language. It's getting them to think. And I actually think, although logic is a really big part of what they should be doing, once they start to think about it, they'll be questioning the logic themselves. So once they become entertained by the opportunity in front of them, then they'll start to make their own rules. They'll start to say, well, I need to go and do this as well. If I do this, it's going to be better. And the best way anyone learns is to work it out for themselves. As you well know, this is about actions and doing. So I applaud, the change in the education system to bring in IT skills. I'd like to see a country that's bringing in finance skills or money management at that young age, because that would be a fantastic trip to do as well. And again, more practical than ever, because if you go to university, you need to know how to budget. And most students run out of funds after their first semester. So there's a gap in the marketplace there.
Actually, you mentioned about the college. There is a joke which I want to crack with you. And the joke is about that, one of the guy actually asked his parents to send money for buying a book. But parents were very smart and they sent the book instead. So he was crying, oh, I asked for money, but my parents actually sent me the book itself. So, such things happens. But I think since the name of the program, our program is You Should Have Learned, but You Didn't. And that is why I think one of the challenge when the questioning start, as you mentioned, that the questioning will happen, and in the old days when we were studying, and if my dad doesn't know math sum to solve, okay, dad can't solve it, I have to go back to teacher only. That was a situation that time. Similarly, now there will be a question about some logical stuff, some command, and I don't want to get into that situation, and that is why I'm going to brush up my programming skills. And the latest stuff which is available for me is Android, and I'm going to do something crazy on Android Studio. So that is my way of tackling this situation, and I'm also gearing up for the future. When the kids actually start becoming real good programmer, I should be also growing with them.
You hit a nail on the head there, and I'm not sure we should go down here, but I'm going to do it anyway. one thing that we do know is that a child, especially a young child, thinks their parents walk on water. They know everything. They're wonderful, you know? Not all the time, obviously, but the majority of the time, children really do look up to their parents for guidance, for reflection, to see, you know, oh, I remember saying, oh, my dad does this, my mum does that, you know, be proud about it. And the nail you just hit smack on the top of the head was, if I ask my parent how to do something and they don't know, what is that saying to the child? In other words, you've put your parent on a pinnacle here and your teacher's on a similar pinnacle over here. And you look at your parents and you say, can you help me do this? And your father turns around. And I'm sure you've said this before. You know, I heard my father say it to my kids before. I don't know how to do that. You know, you need to go and ask your teacher. And I think the answer there is, if your parent that you put on a pinnacle doesn't know how to do it, then all of a sudden the child is going to say, well, why do I need to do it? How is this going to impact me? You know, my dad's this, and he does this and that. And, you know, we go on wonderful holidays but he doesn't know how to do this. So why should I bother? We need to address that question. Okay. And a lot of it is parents need to address that question. So here's a call out to all parents. Even if you don't know how to do it, right? It's not your ego that's being hit here. It's not anything to do with you. It's everything to do with the child that's being asked that question. And you need to go back with a response that makes sense to the child. Now, whatever that response is, I don't know, frankly. I mean, I would say I'd need to understand a bit more about what you're doing. It might take me a while. So the best thing maybe is to think about it yourself. You can't think about the answer. Go back to your teacher and see if your teacher can point you in the right direction. Or go and ask your friends. Now, all that means is, it's not that I don't know. It's just that it's not important to me. So I need to understand a little bit more about your world. And I think if parents took that approach more often, then, you know, perhaps their children would grow up with more of an inquisitive mind and saying, well, it may not be important to you, but it's important to me at the moment, and I need to understand it. This is not, you know, an easy thing to do, frankly, as a parent. You're not going to be the best Hindi speaker or French speaker, German speaker, Spanish speaker, or Italian speaker if your child's learning any of those languages, or indeed even English. And you're not going to be the best, you know, the best physician in the world, or physics teacher in the world. You know, you're not perfect, but you are good at what you do. So you need to be practicing a bit more what you're doing, so that your children can grow in this incredibly fast-moving arena. A fascinating subject today, CK. I hope people have got to grips with the fact that everything you should have learned at school but didn't is actually quite important. And you can go and learn about all these things. If you don't know, if you're a parent out there with young children, go and Google Python. Go and have a look at some YouTube presentations on Python. Or even indeed Microsoft tools, if you don't know anything about Microsoft tools, because you never know. It might prompt you to go and think, well, maybe I should.
I think I'm reliving my school days because, you know, I had forgotten about factoring. And a couple of years back, I had to dig down into Google and understand and relearn the factoring because I had to tell the kids. Now I'm going to relearn my programming. So I think this is a lesson for all the parents today. Thank you so much, Nibal, for coming over and discussing this very, very critical subject. Everything you should have learned in school, but you didn't. We will catch up next Friday again on the same show.
Good stuff. All right. Good luck, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Hello, friends. This is Chandrakant from Akulmach, and today is Monday. It's a bright Monday afternoon, and friends, as you know, that we discuss with our panel doctor about various medical conditions, and today we would like to discuss about the complications that arise because of weather changes. And we are very lucky. We are in India. We have very clearly four distinct weather patterns. So, without further ado, let me invite our panel doctor, Dr. Pooja Bedi.
Good morning, CK. Hope you are doing fine. And thanks once again for the opportunity.
It is our pleasure, doctor. And, we are in the month of February, and very soon there will be Holi. And after Holi, the weather will suddenly change, and then we will start seeing the great Indian sun on our landscape. And that will create a situation where from winter, suddenly people have to change their lifestyle to summers. And this brings a lot of complications. And today we would like to know what are these complications, how we can avoid, are there any remedies? So over to you, Dr. Bedi.
Yes, definitely, CK. First of all, actually, we all are aware whenever the season changes, it brings a change in the temperature, the humidity factor, and also to the fertility of the pathogens that are causing all kind of disorders or you can say diseases. So whenever the weather changes from one particular couple of months to the another couple of months, so the in between time period that is available, it is very very good for the pathogens to grow up. So or the virulence actually grows up. So it depends the kind of disorder or the disease that comes up, like if the weather or the season is changing from summer to winter, from winter to spring, from again the other way around. So if we are talking specifically the weather that is changing from winter to the spring and then followed by the summer, as we all are aware that the flowers or the plants are blooming up these days. So the first thing that is very pre-marked and you can visibly see or sometimes suffer also is the hay fever or the asthmatic allergies or general nose nasal related allergies, cough, cold, flu, change of weather brings the fever as well, sometimes the stomach disorder that pops up. So these are the very common things that comes up. But along with this, the mental changes also comes up. So it is a very good thing when the weather is changing from winter to summer because the plenty of light is available. So when the light is there, we are less prone to any kind of mental disorders. If we are strong enough, we can definitely fight it out. But people who are already having a comorbidity factor, or you can say pre-existing factors related to the mental health care, so they are more vulnerable to the weather changes. Like last time we discussed about bipolar or BP disorder. So they are more vulnerable or any kind of mental pre-existing disorders. So particularly talking about the season that you just asked in the question. So it is actually a good friendly weather because plenty of sunlight is available. A good optimum temperature is available for us and for the pathogens as well. So we have to be very careful how we deal with this, the fertile population that is coming up of the pathogens and as well as of the pollen grains which brings up the allergies. So my recommendation, as far as the treatment or the home management is concerned, sit as much as you can in the light. I'm not saying that you are sweating badly and then again you go ahead and sit in the sun. No. But expose yourself to the maximum light. Take off the curtains, you know, sit in the natural daylight, maybe in the shade if you want to. So exposure to light is very, very good. Suddenly, people will find that there's a change in the sleep pattern as well whenever the weather changes. So the exposure to the light, it brings the melatonin level ups and down, which actually directly affects the sleep pattern in humans. Be on a very good diet, and the basic mantra is to maintain a very, very good hygiene. So if we are able to maintain a very good hygiene, we can actually to almost 50 to 70%. So basic hygiene and a good diet is highly recommended for any kind of weather change. And I myself personally like this weather because suddenly the uh, sun that goes down little early, now the time is delayed, so the daylight is more available, daytime is more available. So this is a good weather.
Well, Dr. Pooja, we are in India where we have clearly 3 to 4 clear, transition from winters to summers to rainy season and again to winters. But then there are certain places in the world where the weather never changes. Like, for example, on equators, people have the same weather throughout the year. That means the sun will come up in the sky, and by afternoon it will rain, and very torrential rain every day. So that is a process, and then in the night the temperature dips and it becomes very cool. Even though you are on equator, the temperature can go down up to 9 degrees or 8 degrees in the night. So in one day they see so many transitions. And the whole point is that they, people who are living in these conditions would have immunity towards these pathogens. Yet people suffer from all these ailments. They have common cold, they have mental issues, uh, you know they also have a lot of light in the morning, but they are not able to cope up as the day passes. So I think it's a situation related to a lot of human beings, where they have to adjust to these ailments which are arising because of the temperature or weather change. What is your guidelines to those people who are not immune to these ailments?
Right. So, taking the first part of your question, that people who are living next to the equator and people who are living far away, north and south. So, we tend to adapt to the changes. That is a basic nature in the human race. So, we definitely adapt to the change. So, in whatever climatic condition we are living in, we get used to it after a while, especially growing up periods. And these kind of disorders, they majorly affect, if you're talking only about the physical disorders or the physiological ones, they majorly affects kids under the age of 5. So you can see the mortality rate is more in them. So it is highly recommended that they should be put on a very good diet. The vaccination is to be there right on time. If it requires the frequency, then it has to be there. Plenty of fluids. Maybe I'm not saying only the water, maybe the juice, lassi, curd, in any form. One can take the fluids, or maybe the raw form of the fruit. They should actually go ahead with it. Follow a routine. That is so very important. If we don't follow a routine, it somehow leads us to a kind of laziness that again can lead to the, later on, to some kind of initial stage of the mental disorder. So people living at equator, if we are talking specifically about them, they are more or less more prone to the stomach, ear, nose, throat, these skin, specifically skin. So these kind of major disorders, or you can say diseases, not disorders, diseases we see in these people. But you will see, since the daylight is more available, so the mental disorders are comparatively less as compared to the people who are living at the poles where the daylight is very less available. So my recommendation is 3 points are very, very specific and is are universal to almost all kind of conditions, mental, physical, related to climatic. So the three mantras are: please take bath every day, independent of it is snowing outside, independent of how hot it is, how exhausted anybody is. Taking a bath is a must. It makes you mentally very, very relaxed when somebody takes a bath. It calms down the body. Second is the hygiene. So maybe it is, yes, it is related to the first part itself, taking a bath. So hygiene in terms of washing the hands very frequently. So thank God it has been very nicely highlighted in the era of COVID. But prior to that, there has been, number of deaths that are happening because of the diarrhea and many other infectious disorders or diseases. So it's so important to maintain the basic hygiene. Third is be on a very, very good diet, which is less in carb, and the fluid intake has to be adequate depending on the climatic conditions and the temperature variability.
So, in fact, you mentioned about taking shower regularly. I've heard about soldiers who are returning from very harsh duty, like Siachen in India, and they are not able to take shower for like couple of months. And when they take shower after returning after a couple of months, like 6 months or 3 months, then you should, you know, talk to them, how they feel. I think the point is very well made. So coming back to our situation in India, where now the weather is changing and the COVID is also there. Although vaccinations are being provided, but the millions of people are still not vaccinated. So there is a very high risk of getting common cold, and that could be dangerous for us also. And the point number two that you also mentioned is that since because of the lockdown, most of the people are indoors. So what is your advice to people by and large, how they protect themselves from ailments like common cold, because that can lead to COVID, or it could be diagnosed as COVID, or probably start the COVID. So how they can change their lifestyle to protect themselves.
Yes, CK, definitely. Now, the first part is whenever the weather changes, it definitely brings some kind of changes in the human body as well, in terms of temperature variation, or you say anything, or fluid intake, or the dietary, or the sleep patterns. So, if we are talking specifically about the COVID, and yes, the weather change will definitely have some sort of effect onto this thing, though I strongly believe that the temperature has got no relation to the size and structure of the COVID virus. It can only be, the outer wall can only be broken with the help of a you know some soap or detergent or the sanitizer. So the temperature has got very less effect as far as COVID is going. But since the weather is changing, and we should be more immune towards the other complications, because if our immune go down, then we are more vulnerable towards the COVID as well. So in order to have a good immune, it is very important to have a basic home management, which includes the basic hygiene, a good diet, and ample amount of fluid. So these are the three things. But whenever the weather changes, you will see specifically during the summers, people undergo dehydration. And the reverse happens. The people, when we are in the winter phase, we tend to have cramps in legs, in the calves. So same happens in the summer as well. But the reason is in both the condition is the deficiency of the magnesium, less fluid intake in summer as well and in winter as well. So my recommendation to as much stay safe from COVID and the other illnesses is to boost the immune system. And one can do it very simply at home with the simple management of diet, hygiene, and as much as social distancing we can maintain, I would appreciate that.
So I think we have discussed enough importance about maintaining the good environment around ourselves. How do we control our mental health? Is there a possibility, or is there a remedy during this period, like meditation or anything else which you'd like to recommend?
Yes, yes, definitely, CK. In fact, I agree to you. You have already given one of the point, meditation, to come out of it. But to be very frank, if I can just start up with that, mental disorders, they specifically affect during the winter time, or they are also called as winter blues, because the less of the daylight is available. So the melatonin, or you can say the sleep hormone, to be very frank, is somehow its limit is also either increased or decreased. depending on the daylight being exposed to that particular person. So if somebody is already having a bipolar or any kind of mental illness or disorder, maybe a transient one, maybe a permanent one, somebody is undergoing medication, not undergoing medication, the psychotalk is going on. So when the winter patch comes, specifically these kind of people or population, they tend to get affected more. So it is so important that we should follow a very particular schedule every day. We try to inculcate a new hobby that we wanted to pursue or we are pursuing. So it is highly recommended for these people or population who are already having some issue to please kindly follow a particular routine. Be I'm not saying stay strictly disciplined. Changes has to be there in the day routine or chores, but yes, try to follow a definite pattern in a day. Try to pursue some kind of hobby. If you are very fond of talking to someone, give a call, or try to write it down if somebody is not available. It's very important that we express ourselves. uh, and the communication, which is actually a key to come out of any kind of mental illness, is very very important. So please, a conversation, I don't mean only talking. Communication in terms of reading, writing, learning, all these factors are to be included. So if somebody is very fond of reading, so they must, or may can try some new style of reading, some different pattern or styles of reading. So this is very, very important to get yourself in comfortable shoes if somebody is having some kind of mental disorders pre-existing in them. So that is the first recommendation, communication. And second is, again, I very highly recommend people to be on a good diet. So specifically during the winter, somebody who's already undergoing some kind of illness, they should or must not include many, I mean, a lot of carbs in their diet, which is very important because we tend to gain weight. Somebody tends to gain weight in the winter time because of the more intake of the carb. And if you already have some kind of pre-existing factor, it adds on more. So I would recommend to be on a very good diet, which is less in carb, more of fluids, and communication in terms of the four different aspects that I discussed, not only talking, but in other aspects is very, very important.
Doctor, thank you very much for summarizing this beautifully. And I'm sure a lot of our viewers will find this advice very valuable, especially when the weather is changing. And in fact, now the weather is changing, and after 2 months, again, weather will change. So I think if you follow certain lifestyle, as you have said, and also follow certain level of diet, you mentioned good diet. It could mean a vegetarian diet or it could be a non-vegetarian diet. It depends on people, but they have to maintain a good diet and keep themselves hydrated, and also communication. So I think these are very good advice to make sure that we live healthy and also have a mental health, I mean good mental health. So with this, I would like to say thank you for today, Dr. Bedi. Your advices are very valuable for us. It was pleasure and lovely talking to you on this Monday.
Thank you so much, CK, and stay safe. Thank you so much.
So see you next time with something more interesting. Until then, bye-bye.
Take care.
Good morning, friend, and welcome to Akulmach Live. My name is Chandrakant, and today's big news is that India has crossed the target of vaccinating their citizens, and they have been able to successfully vaccinate 1 billion people. It is a very big deal, and I'll exactly tell you why this is a big deal. First thing is to vaccinate so many people. I mean, we are a nation of 1.3 billion people, and the whole idea is to vaccinate all. And even if one person is left behind unvaccinated, that is going to help virus mutate further, and it is considered as if it is not 100%. So it was important to vaccinate each and every one of our citizen. And to do that, the government actually first launched an application called CoWIN. CoWIN is an application which will help in queue management. And once you register using your Aadhaar card, which is a national ID, then the CoWIN will actually give you a slot, and you're supposed to visit the health center on that slot, on that day, plus minus some variance. But this was a big deal because, managing appointments of so many billions of people, so that there is no extra chaos at the medical center, queue management, and all of those things. And then there is perfect management of how many vaccination vials are there, how many people are going to be given appointment, etc. How many centers are there, how many health workers are there. So considering all that, there was a continuous pace of appointments given using CoWIN. And this was a big deal because, integrating the entire country, ensuring that the database is maintained of all those people who have been vaccinated successfully, and use of digital technology to do that. At the same time, central government had made the entire vaccination plan free. So people were given choice where they can go to a free center and to a paid center. And a paid center was also not too expensive. It was only the cost of the medical center. So all of that management was done using this website called CoWIN. So you could go to a website, or you could go to this app, which I'm showing you in the screen. The second one was the just in case if there is a paid citizen who wants to get a paid version of the vaccination. Then in 2017, government had started the world largest digital micropayment platform, and that is called Beam. So people can easily register their slots and also pay for it online. So there is no interaction at the medical center. All you have to do is just queue in for about 10 minutes, get your vaccination done like a factory approach, and then wait for 30 minutes or 20 minutes as per the process, and then walk out. So there is no unnecessary chaos, crowd building, and stuff like that. And a particular center were given certain numbers of slot. So if the slot is not available using CoWIN, you can find another slot in some other medical center. So date wise, month wise, the entire database was available for for the entire India. So it was a big deal, definitely getting all these things think through and organize. The third big thing is supply chain. If you look at the production facility of the pharmaceutical company producing these vaccination, there is a set supply, set production. They can produce as many vials per day, and then these vials have to be transported to respective medical centers across the nation. And India has such a big, it is also called a subcontinent because the area itself is so big, and there are challenges with regard to lockdown. Not many people were available, so the government had to build a database of frontline workers, which involved the medical staff, also the transportation staff, and so on and so forth. So basically the entire supply chain, starting from raw material to production to distribution and then finally administration, was taken care. And then at the same time, if in order to administer so many people with vaccination, there was no way that one company could have produced so many vaccinations in this time frame. So government of India very quickly decided that they need to approve all kinds of vaccination which are available. And being a federal system in India, the central government is primarily responsible for approving a particular vaccination, and then state government were supposed to pick that up. And as far as central government is concerned, the central government made vaccinations free for everybody, and the state government can pick up the final produced and give it to their state citizens, either on a charge or free. So I think that was a freedom given to the state governments. So the entire ecosystem was running to make sure that there is no wastage, there is no damage, and smoothly people have been given slots, and those many numbers of vaccinations are available on that day. So the entire supply chain was linked to COVID application to make sure that there is no chaos. It should not happen that so many people turn up on their turn and the medical center runs out of vaccination vials. So the entire supply chain was managed. At the same time, availability was also maintained because all the vaccinations were available in India. So you have the Indian vaccinations, you had AstraZeneca vaccination, which is co-branded as Covaxin, Covishield, and Sputnik, and Pfizer, and a few others. So all of these vaccinations were available just to make sure that there is no failure of supply chain and availability. It is a very well planned strategy with digital support and execution. So because of that, we were able to vaccinate almost like 86, 87 citizens every second, starting from January 14th in 2021, when we started our vaccination program. And until 2 days back, we had crossed a billion citizens. So what is remaining are only the younger population, for which the testing is going on right now. So about 300 million are the young people below 18. I think the vaccination will start for them very soon. Now, let's come to the last point where, in spite of lot of criticism, lot of naysayers, politics, and there were many elements across the world. There are countries, including the developed countries, they wanted India to fail. They had some of these gurus and prediction artists. They were saying that India is going to create such a big mess. They will not be able to control things. And we have actually proved everyone wrong. We have actually ensured, the Indian government and the state governments and the citizens of India ensured that all these naysayers, whether they are Indian citizens or outside India, have been shut up finally by this success. So I think I wanted to bring this particular information to you to ensure that that you are aware. Especially people in India are aware of this, but this video is primarily meant for Indians outside India, or the people who are overseas, foreigners. And if they have any confusion, they can actually dig deep and find out more about what it takes to administer vaccination, starting from supply chain to distribution, and also making sure that there is no crowd build-up, making sure that things happen smoothly and satisfaction to everyone. So friends, this is all for this particular session. I will catch you in the next one. Hello friends, this is Chandra from Akulmach Technologies. Welcome to Top Brass. About 10 days back, there was a news that in UP, which is one of the province in India, there is a discovery, or the scientists have found a huge stash of gold or rather, it's 3,000 to 6,000 metric ton of gold have been found deep inside the forest in our state called UP. Now this is going to change the dynamics, the global dynamics, and so far this much gold is available and it was sort of hidden out of plain sight for centuries. Nobody knew that such a big mountain of gold is there. That will change the dynamic, as I said, because uh, this finding of the gold will bring India number two after United States in terms of the gold reserves. So why this is so important? Let me very high level. Let me draw your attention to how economy works. So basically, economy works based on average person sees these currency notes, and these are issued by the central bank of each country. Like you go to Kenya, there will be a central bank there. They are responsible for printing the notes. Likewise, we have in India Reserve Bank of India, which is responsible for circulation and printing of the notes. It's not that anybody can print these currency notes. Now, how much currency to be printed, that is a question mark. That it is basically based on certain economic facts, and the starting point of this economy, which is like foreign exchange reserves, how much what is the size of my GDP, etc., etc., and how much currency I have in circulation. All that really started maybe 1,000 years back, maybe 2,000 years back, but wherever it started with gold. And in ancient time, the India was known for the gold. Everybody had gold. In fact, today the Indians love their gold so much that it is part of, it's like it's the ultimate investment. It's considered as an investment. It is also considered as ultimate inheritance. So while the Indian government does not have that kind of a gold in reserves, but the people, which is 1.3 billion people, with whichever religion they are, they all love their gold, and all of these people have some gold or the other. So if you bring all of this into organized sector, we will be much ahead than the global any country, even United States. We will surpass them. But let's not talk about that part, because those that gold is privately held with individuals in the country. But this one, which has now been found out, is a mountain of gold, and the estimate value is 3,000 to 6,000 metric ton in state of Uttar Pradesh. If that is added to the Indian gold reserve, we will be number two after United States. You can straight away imagine, as a layman, I'm just not talking too complex things here. I'm not talking about inflation. I'm not talking use these, difficult terms. I'm just saying that if you have gold, you will have better economy. Your ability to invest increase, your ability to spend increase, there will be more currency in circulation, and blah blah, and so on and so forth. So this has a very profound implications in years to come. Right now, the status of this gold is the UP government is going to do e-tendering, and by way of e-tendering, they will select the companies, whether government or private companies, who will basically excavate this gold and produce it. After that, what will happen? Whether Uttar Pradesh will have access to this gold, or whether they will have a joint ownership with central government and the Uttar Pradesh government. So will it belong to India as a whole, or will it belong to Uttar Pradesh? That is what something that needs to be seen and ascertained. But right now, the way it looks like, and in fact, because of the Shaheen Bagh protest, this particular news was totally buried by all channels. But this is going to come up in a big way. It is going to transform India in next 10 years. It will become, India will again live the past glory of being called the golden sparrow, Sone ki chidiya. So with this, I will end this video, but I will meet you tomorrow with some more interesting facts. Until then, bye bye.
Morning, Neville.
Good morning, CK. It's Friday, it's day 10 of lockdown, and you've got some great news, I hear, from what happened yesterday.
Yes, today is day 10, and we got up early, and there was a early morning transmission on all channels across India. The Prime Minister of India was addressing the nation, and so he mentioned few things. He mentioned few ideas. He also hinted that this is going to be a long battle. But most important thing that he mentioned today was he, as Prime Minister of India, is grateful to the citizens for following the lockdown, because that is one thing which will defeat the coronavirus.
You're absolutely right. And that word grateful, which interesting enough, yesterday we had the word feedback, which was an F. Today we've got grateful, which is a G. So we're following the alphabet, perhaps. Maybe we're taking a weekend off, remember, because tomorrow's Saturday. So we'll be back on Monday. But being grateful is really important, because we need to say thank you. We need to say thank you to our families, to our other halves, to our partners, to our friends, to our relations, to our kids, because working from home has not been easy. It's been a challenge for a lot of people. And equally, remember to be thankful to your team, because they're under lockdown too. They've never experienced this either. So be grateful to them. And there's another G there. Be gracious too. Be that boss that is thankful and mean it. Because everyone's struggling with what's going on. As you just said, your Prime Minister said, we're in this for a bit longer. This is a long haul. We're actually only delaying. We're buying time here. We're not stopping the virus. We're just buying a bit of time in many respects so that we can get better prepared for what comes next. And that's really important. And we need to be thankful for that too. So you've got your Corona warriors, and I believe, is it Sunday evening at 9 o'clock? Put a candle in the mirror in the front, front window.
That's right. So Prime Minister urged the citizens to have another event to thank the Corona warriors by lighting a candle or some sort of a light. Even if you don't have a light, use your mobile torch. Make light for 5 minutes while switch off all your lights in the home. So this is sort of a tribute that he has asked us to do for 5 minutes, 9 p.m. on Sunday.
Well, I think that's great. And maybe that could be adopted around the world, although we're on different time zones. But we certainly light a candle. We had our clap for carers, we call it over here. Clap for our carers. That's the hashtag. And yesterday at 8 o'clock, everyone went out onto their balconies and to their front lawns and just clapped for 5 minutes.
Right.
My wife regularly puts a candle in the window at the same time. So that's our little tribute, if you like. We can all do little things. But the main thing is, the message today is the weekend's coming. It's halfway through your day already. Pick up the phone and say thank you to your team. And in the evening, say thank you to the family. We don't say thank you often enough. And the very mention of the word thank you brings a smile on your face too. Because it's a feel good. It really is a feel good factor. And then the more you say it, actually, the easier it becomes. Simple, isn't it?
Yes, it's a great idea. I think, thank you, Neville, for, telling us this idea. I think it is important. I'm going to do this as soon as this call is over. I'm going to organize a video call with all my team, whichever part of the country or whichever part of the globe they are. And I will say thank you to them.
Yeah, and I bet they say thank you back. because we're humans, you know. You hope so. Well, you soon find out, you know, and it's okay. You know, this is not weak leadership. People think, you know, showing your vulnerabilities, you know, showing your real self is a weakness. It's not weakness at all. It helps your organization get stronger. And people can say, I see what you're struggling with there, I can help you. Then you say, well, thank you. You know, it's not difficult. You just have to start.
It's a great idea, Neville. It's very nice. I think, thank you. I would like to say first, thank you to you for spending time with me and also giving such great ideas. So first, thank you from me to you on a Friday.
And the thank yous returned. And everyone out there, you know, thank you for what you're about to do, because that's the really important thing. So enjoy the weekend. Day 10 today. We'll be back on day 13, which is unlucky for some, but let's make it lucky for you. Have a nice weekend, CK. See you Monday. And good luck, everybody.
Have a nice weekend and be safe, Neville.
And you.
My name's Neville Gaunt, and we've got a very interesting discussion for you today. And it's all about having good lighting when you're on the digital arena. And I'm delighted to have my colleague all the way from India, Madhulika, who's only 12 years old, and she's going to explain to us exactly how she helped her dad set up studio lighting in his home. So, Madhulika, good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much. And the stage is yours. So over to you. Why have you done this project?
I have made this studio light for giving a good shine on the face, and in this studio light, it gives a parallel line which illuminates on our face, and it doesn't allow any dark and light and patches on a face. Like you can see, there's no dark light and patches on my face because there's a studio light.
That's absolutely brilliant, because we can see just by looking at you that all of your face is lit up. There's no dark patches, there's no shading, and if you turn your head to the left or the right, we can still see your beautiful face. So tell me now, what did you actually do? What was exciting about this little project you did?
I actually, me and my father researched about this project, this DIY project. When we researched that this studio lights are very costly, and they're very expensive. So we decided to make our own. We decided to make our own studio light at home, because this is a COVID time, so we can't go out, or it is very difficult to make this hard thing.
Absolutely, and the key thing here is studio lights are very expensive. And have you ever been on a TV show? Have you been to see them when they do a TV show, and all the expensive equipment they have when they're interviewing the
Yes,
journalists?
sir.
Yes, it's really expensive. They put a lot of effort into it because people want to see the best of people when they come on the TV. And on a video like this, we want to see the best of people when they're on the video, so that there's no distractions. Because when you've got dark shades out there, there's distractions. And what we want to do is to see the person that's talking to us. So tell me now, what did you actually do to make this studio light?
um, first we went up, and then first we went up and we saw. First we designed the whole studio light on a paper, and then we thought that these studio lights are very cost expensive, so we decided to make a studio light with all the resources which we have in our home, and then we went up. First we went up, and then I saw that there are 3-4 many old dish antennas at the roof. They were so I chose one, and then I unscrewed it, and then when I unscrewed it, and it was getting very difficult for unscrewing it. So, but then I helped my father to unscrew it, and then we brought it down. We cleaned it properly, but then it, it was so much razzed out that we took a sandpaper, and then we just removed those which were there on a dish antenna.
So it was very rusty, was it?
Yeah.
It had that brown rust.
Yeah.
So, and when you used the sandpaper, did it screech a little? So you were a bit squeamish.
No, we had to just scratch on the dish antenna to remove those brown.
The rust bits. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was obviously up there for quite some time, and things do get rusty. So what a great idea to they call that rubbing it down.
Because it was out, so it got rusted.
Absolutely, it's out in the weather, so it does get rusty. So once you've rubbed it down and you've got a nice smooth surface, what did you do next?
We took a glue, and then we applied it in the inner surface of the dish antenna. After that, we stick the aluminium foil on it, and then we make sure then that there is no wrinkles on the on the aluminium foil, and after that we took a normal LED bulb, and then we just fixed it into the dish antenna, and then we just took the whole dish antenna, and then we fixed it on the wall.
Wow. So when you said you put the aluminium foil and you pushed all the wrinkles out, why did you push the wrinkles out?
Because the light wouldn't reflect on our face properly.
Yeah, it's a simple one, isn't it? And I bet there were lots of wrinkles, because whenever I've done anything like this, pushing out those wrinkles takes a lot of time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got a nice smooth surface. And what happened when you turned the light on for the first time?
When we turn on the light for the first time, it just my father's face just glows.
It glows
without any wrinkles or like anything. Dark and light patches on their face.
He hasn't got any wrinkles like me. I've got wrinkles on my face. So all of those disappeared, did they?
Yeah.
Just because the light was good. Okay, we're going to demonstrate now, and we haven't practiced this at all, but we're going to demonstrate turning that light off and showing the difference. So I hope Dad's listening in the background. So when I say after 3, He turns the light off, just leaves it off for 2 seconds and turns the light back on again. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Now we can see the difference. And turn it back on. There we go. There we go. The screen takes a bit of time to adjust to the light, but all of a sudden, all of those shady bits has gone away. And that's the whole point of this little session today. You explained it absolutely brilliantly. Now, tell me, how did you feel when it worked?
I feel very happy, and I feel very proud that I have participated in this. I have participated in this DIY project.
That's brilliant because, DIY, for those that don't know, it's do it yourself. And there's lots of things we can get around the house and we can make and do it yourself. Madalika, it's been an absolute delight speaking with you today. I'm really pleased you enjoyed doing that little job with your father, because doing those little jobs now, in 20 years' time, you'll be doing those on your own. So good luck. Thank you very much for contributing today. What we can do on Zoom is we can have a wave goodbye. So you're 6,000 miles away from me, so we're gonna wave goodbye. You gonna wave? Nice big wave. Bye-bye. Nice smile.
Have a nice day.
And you have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hello friends, this is Akulmach Live and I am Chandrakant. India has created a buzz in the global pharmaceutical arena by announcing a free dose for every citizen. And when I say free dose, it's the vaccination for COVID-19. And this was announced by the central government of India, which is headed by Prime Minister Modi. And it's a very big deal. I think this requires a detailed discussion. We are actually going to discuss this very point today in our show, and we have a very special guest joining from UK. So friends, stick around to this show because there is a giveaway. We will tell you in the end how you can claim your free gift. Welcome back, friends. And recently the Indian government has announced that there'll be a huge plan for vaccination of its citizens, and we will discuss this particular point today. And to discuss this further, let me invite my friend from UK, Mr. Naval.
Good morning, CK. Good morning, everybody. Free vaccinations for everybody. About time too, one might say, because until we're all vaccinated, no one's vaccinated. So what's made the government move down this particular route, CK? What do you think? What's the motivation?
Well, Naval, I know for sure that you don't like politics, but I think the politics is behind it. And so let me briefly cover it. It's basically India as a country is divided between 28 states and about 8 to 9 union territories. Union territories are directly ruled by the central government. So central government do not interfere in day-to-day activities of the states, and the central government has portfolio like finance, foreign affairs, etc., which are for better governance. But the local issues are always governed by the state governments, which are also elected by the people of that state. So what happened was that there was a blame game going on because people don't want to work, they don't want to take care of the citizens in certain states, and they were saying, hey, central government is not providing enough vaccination. So I think this was going on for a couple of months, and there were Twitter and social media campaigns running and defaming India and Indian government, and more so Mr. Modi. So one fine day he called all the chief ministers in a meeting last week, and he said, I'm going to give free vaccination from central government to every citizen of India. This is the background, Neville.
Well, I mean, like a lot of things these days, they are socially motivated, which means they're politically motivated. And you're right, I don't like politics, but unfortunately we can't get away with it. I mean, the good news is, from this perspective, is that decision's now been made at the very top, which is great, because now all you've got to do is do it.
Yes, Neville. In fact, now the state government and opposition government cannot blame that they don't have enough vaccination. In fact, there are certain state governments who have wasted millions of vials of these vaccinations because they said, we don't want this one, we want the other one, we are waiting for the other one, this one is not good, and so on and so forth. So I think there was a lot of debate which happened for past 2 months. A lot of bad campaigns ran through social media. So I think now with this move, Mr. Modi and his central government has actually stopped all of that. In fact, for last 1 week there has been no bad publicity happening, because now everybody has to shut up and take care of their citizens. So this is where it is.
Well, it's an interesting state of affairs, because I was being a little sarcastic, as you probably might have gathered, when I said all you have to do now is just do it, which is my favourite phrase of all time, because doing it now is going to have some logistical issues. We're going to have some supply chain issues. We're going to have people that really don't want the vaccine. They're not convinced that they're probably anti-vaccine anyway, really. They probably never had a vaccine in their life. And now all of those issues will start to come to the fore. We've seen a lot of that in the UK. We've had a bit of a backlash with particular parts of society that really are anti-vaccine. They don't trust them. They don't believe in them. But frankly, I'm not too sure we're going to get away from the COVID pandemic without people being vaccinated. And equally, we're also seeing large organizations around the world offering amazing perk type packages to get people back into the office. You know, we've had, quite a few months away from the office now. A lot of people have been working from home, and they like working from home. They don't have to travel to the office. They don't have to struggle in the commuter times. They can deal with their children more effectively. They're probably more productive at home because they realize that if they're more productive at home, there's less reason to go back into the office. So we're seeing all these things. This is just human behavior now. And we're seeing all of these things happening. But I think it's going to be very, very interesting once this rollout starts to get going, just how the Indian economy fares. Do people actually get back into the workplace? Not necessarily as it was pre-COVID. I'm not too sure we will ever go back to pre-COVID times in the way we were. But every time I think of my friends in India, I think about where they struggle to get on trains, and people jump on the top of trains, and it's almost like third class, second class, and first class travel. And the fact is, everyone's just got a ticket. So I'm not too sure we're going to get back to those days, but you never know. But let's look at the types of vaccines that you've got, because they're now, a year ago, when Pfizer came out with the first vaccine, everyone was out there, hallelujah, this is the savior. And then all of a sudden, AstraZeneca followed it in quite rapid. Once it was approved, of course, because it was already in the pipeline, but it's this approval process that's going through. But you've got a number of vaccines in India, some of which have got some interesting names, I think. So let's have a look at those vaccines that are available.
Well, I think naval announcement is one thing, but execution of this whole project is another. And even if the entire world industry get together, it will be a Herculean task to vaccinate, 1 billion people. So I'll actually share some slides with you. So the highlight of this program is that the entire population of India needs to be vaccinated as quickly as possible. And while doing so, it has to be free for every citizen, so there'll be no charge, and government is going to pay the manufacturers everything from their own pocket, basically exchequer's money, but they don't have to pay anything for the vaccination. And in terms of the scale, if you can imagine, there are basically 3 primary groups of people. One group is 18 years to 45 years of age group. Other one is 46 plus age group, and there is a third group which is 18 and below. So the 18 and below age group is excluded at this point in time. So I'm just doing a little math here. If 18 and below population is about 300 million in India, that means the first 2 groups comprise of almost 1 billion people, with plus minus variance of accuracy. And since each vaccination required 2 doses, that means we need 2 billion doses to be provided to run this program effectively. So it's huge. I don't think even if all the manufacturers across the world, excluding China, get together, they can produce this kind of medicines and also make it available because of supply chain. So let's look at the vaccines which are approved and available right now, and these are Covaxin, Covishield. These are the most popular ones. Covaxin is the Indian Bharat Serum Institute manufactured, completely Indian. Covishield is AstraZeneca. It's under license to the same company as Bharat Serum Institute. Then we have Moderna, we have Pfizer and Sputnik. And what is coming up are additional new type of vaccinations which are being produced, and I think by June or end or July beginning, all these will be also available. So first one is BioE sub-vaccine. Then I've created this in red color because I want to talk a little bit about this. It's an Indian company based in the west province of India called Gujarat, and this company is called Zydus Cadila. They are working on the most effective medicine, and it is based on the DNA analysis. So it requires genetic studies, and this is also going to be out by June or July for the first vaccination. Then S2 Novavax, I don't know much about it. And the fourth one is also very, very interesting. It is called Nasal Vaccine, again from the Bharat Serum Institute. What is so special in nasal vaccine is like it will have, you just have to apply 2 drops in both of the nostrils, and then you are vaccinated, so you don't have to do any injection. And based on my reading on their company website, what I found is that none of the vaccines actually protect your upper lung and your throat trachea area. All the vaccines are protecting your lower lung from coronavirus, and the nasal vaccine will be basically protecting your upper lung as well as your throat and the trachea. So this is going to cover the entire body from coronavirus to enter your body and infecting you. Even your throat infection, even causing flu in your throat, will not happen if you have the nasal vaccine. So that is under development. And interestingly, UK is actually collaborating with India to develop this one. This was part of the billion pound contract which India and UK signed few months back. And the last one is Geneva mRNA vaccine, which is going to be also available. So I think there's huge work ahead of us, and all of this. What I heard yesterday, Neville, is that 30% of the upfront payment has been made already by Indian government. So the first tranche of the payment has been made already.
Wow, that's it's amazing. And when we're talking about 2 billion doses, let's just go back to one of your first slides. 2 billion doses. We're not just talking about the cost of those doses. We're actually talking about the cost of implementing those doses. So it's the transportation costs, which is quite significant. It's the storage costs. Then it's utilizing healthcare so that they can actually people can be vaccinated. Equally, it's all of the syringes and the needles and the little plasters they put on the backside, on the side of your arm afterwards. So when you look at the whole thing in the scheme of things, you're probably looking at somewhere in the region of $15, maybe $20 per dose, I would think, or maybe that's the total cost. But even so, $20 for the total cost times 2 billion. You don't have to do the sums there. Just put a naught and double 2. You know, $40 billion. I mean, it doesn't bear thinking about, really. I mean, I come from the oil and gas industry, so 40 billion is just 40.0. As far as I'm concerned, because that's how we used to look at the numbers. But even for a huge government and a huge country like Pakistan, like India, beg your pardon, it's a massive investment, and that's where we need to be very, very recognize that this is not to be taken lightly. And I think it's everyone's, I mean, we're talking about people on the TV here saying it's everyone's duty to take the vaccine. Well, maybe it is, you know, unless you've got something that is really preventing you. I think people need to be really considering whether they should be taking this vaccine, if they're at all reticent to taking vaccines. Because the bottom line here is, until we're all vaccinated, no one's vaccinated. Nobody's safe. And we're already here in the UK, in particular, we're already talking about boosters. Just like every year I get the flu vaccine, this is now just going to be added to that booster type regime. We've got to remember as well that this is a particularly nasty virus. And as you said, CK, what our scientists are recognizing is that it affects parts of the body in a different way. And I'm really excited, actually, about the nasal vaccine. I don't know if you recall, but 7 or 8 months ago, we heard about some tests that were being done with just simple nasal sprays in Canada. And they were getting huge results just by regularly having just an off-the-counter nasal spray. So we need to be letting the science take its own journey, believing in our scientists. I mean, it's fantastic that India and the UK are going down this nasal route, because I don't think anyone else is looking at the upper arena. And of course, there's nothing worse than a cough that turns into a headache. And typically, when people were originally getting coughs, they weren't sure whether it was COVID or not. So if we can take that problem away, you know, the purpose of science is to take away problems, not to find more. And if we can take that problem away, it's just going to make life that much easier for people. You know, we need to be making life easy for people to do, having clean air, not worrying about all of these biocides that are out there, all of this plastic pollution that we're generating, et cetera, et cetera. So we just need to be making things easier for people where we can. And I have to applaud the Indian government for effectively being the first in the world to do this at this scale, you know. And as you probably know, there are trials being undertaken for the 12 to 18-year-olds because they're super carriers. It's not surprising, really, because, they don't socially distance at that age. They play lots of team sports. They're in the same dressing rooms. Can you remember the days where, as a child, everyone caught a verruca? Do you remember those days? When you went to a swimming pool and you came back and you had a verruca because someone had a verruca and it was passed on very quickly.
Well, to be very frank with you, if if I remember my swimming days, which was as back as 12 months back, when I started swimming in the pool, when you go to swim in the ocean and the river, there is no issue. But if you go to a pool, then you will always come back with a flu. And even though the general directive was to get the hepatitis because that is the fastest spreading disease if you're going to a pool. So I think, but then one of the doctor actually told me that you don't stop going to the pool, and that is how your immunity will develop. So I continued even after getting the flu. I was down for 3 days, and I used to pick my body up and go to the pool again. And after a couple of months, I got resistant to all this different flu public viruses which were coming through the pool. So I think the public pool makes you very strong. I think that's my opinion.
Yeah, you could well be right. But I remember as a child, bazooka the verruca, we used to call it. And there was even a medicine called bazooka. And and equally, chickenpox. When one child got chickenpox, all the children got chickenpox. My parents would go out their way and make me play with kids that got chickenpox. And I think this is just part of society that perhaps we've been missing for many years because we've been a bit too insular. So the last 18 months, people have been now thinking about, why are they here? What are they doing? What's their purpose in life, etc., etc. So I'm hoping that this move by India is a very positive move. It's going to actually happen without other politicians getting in the way by saying we want this vaccine rather than that vaccine. Let's just get it all done and move into the new regime, whatever that new regime is, because it's not just the economy that needs to recover. People need to recover. People need to feel more safe, I think, is the way. Even if we do have to wear masks in public places or inside restaurants and what have you, to me, that's fine. That's just a recognition that this thing is nasty and it's still a killer, and we need to do our utmost to keep it away. This is like an alien virus, Doesn't matter whether it was actually physically created or in a animal form or whatever it is on the earth. It's an alien virus. We don't like it, and our system will buck the trend and go against it. So let's let science take its course, support all the healthcare arena, and do our duty. I mean, that's really fundamentally what I think the message needs to be today. There's nothing stopping us.
Absolutely, Neville. On June 21st, this drive will start in India, and the central government of India will actually provide all the vaccinations to the state government, which will be responsible for vaccinating the people. And you mentioned about plastics, syringes, and all that. That will be the responsibility of the state government. So now, hopefully, the debate will end and people will get their, vaccination which they have been waiting for. When I went for my second dose, I found it very, very smooth process. You go to the app, register your slot, go there on time. Then it works like a clockwork. You go, stand in the queue, show your PIN number, they register it. And then within 15 minutes you get vaccinated. Then you wait for 20 minutes or 30 minutes to see any side effects, and after that you just walk out. So it was just a very smooth process. It took about 45 minutes to get my second jab a few days back, and as soon as I was vaccinated, I got the certificate immediately. So it's all fully automated. There is no human intervention, there is no payment to be made. As it is, there was no payment at all, and because you're paying through the app, which is the central government. So I think it's a very smooth process, and once the state government is also getting it for free from central government, I think the whole process of blame, I think the state government now have to, all state government 28 plus 9 union territories will have to get their act together and provide vaccination centers in plenty of numbers to cover the population of India. So Neville, I think we had a very good discussion today. Thank you so much for finding time and sharing your thoughts on this global news that India created a few days back. We'll catch up again tomorrow, Neville, on something more interesting.
Thank you, CK. Have a great day, everybody, and get vaccinated. It's free.
We have some unique Akulmach memorabilia which will make you look outstanding. The graphics on these corporate gifts are based on the global best business practices. To become recipient of one of these gifts for free, you have to watch this video till the end and provide your valuable comments, or you can also share your experiences. The person who makes the best comment would be chosen to become a recipient of these beautiful Akulmach gift, absolutely free, delivered to your doorsteps. The winner would also get a chance to be invited live as a distinguished panelist during our next video. What are you waiting for, friends? Please subscribe Akulmach and smash that like button.
Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out?
Good morning, Neville.
Good morning, CK. Very cold day in London today.
It's calm in India as well. We have today's 23rd day of the lockdown. We have some more days to go. But more important thing is today is alphabet Q that we want to discuss. So what do you think Q stands for?
Well, you've just said it.
What do you mean?
You just said it again.
Come on, Neville. Don't play with me.
Okay, I'm not going to play with you anymore. Q is for asking a question.
Okay.
It's as simple as that. And it's a question that comes up all the time. Business owners really should ask questions. And why is that? Well, we learn through asking questions. And we learn through asking the question after the question after the question. So let's explore why this happens. So you've got young children, haven't you?
Oh yes, we have two.
There you go. So that was a very closed question. You've got young children, haven't you? And you came back with, yes, I have two. So you gave me a bit more information there. And during the day, now your children are under lockdown, you see them all the day now. You can't avoid, despite being locked away in your study. One of the features of children is they ask lots of questions. So on an average day, what percentage of their day when you see them are they asking questions?
So the children are always asking questions. I think they have 80% of their time they're asking questions for small little things. Everything they want to ask a question, because if the parent says, hey, do it, they feel empowered, so they do it. But 20% of the time they feel empowered themselves. So without asking 20% active for the 20% activity, they don't ask any question. So I would say 80% they're definitely asking questions.
Yeah, and that's pretty typical, because even in the classroom they will ask questions. The teacher will say something and the kids will ask questions. But over time, the questioning stops. It slows down. And we know that happens
because now let me ask you from a business point of view, just on average, how many people ask questions?
Interestingly, Neville, the way you put it makes me introspect myself, and I really feel that nobody asks questions. In fact, if I have my discussions with my colleagues, my team, and even my clients, very few questions. It's like a job, you know. Somebody says, "Hey, do this." The answer expected from that thing is, "Okay." There are no questions asked, really.
And so over time, and it's a feature of everyone around the world. This is not specific to any particular country or district. That's the way things happen. But it's the reason why it happens, which is really important. And the majority of the time is that when we're very young, we're thirsty for knowledge. You know, we really want to know, even the simple things. They're pushing boundaries all the time. So when your kids ask you, you know, I wonder if mum or dad are going to let me have this thing that I really want, you know, and they come to you and they suggest something and you say, yeah, okay. They've pushed the boundary, you know. It may be a really sugary treat that you think, well, under normal circumstances, no, but yeah, okay, they can have it now. They clock that up here and they know next time what did they do to push the boundary. So they're going to push the boundary again. And we should be doing that in businesses each time, just pushing the boundary. So, but the way we push the boundary is to ask questions. And it doesn't matter how simple the question is or how difficult the question is, we need to ask it. Now, this requires a lot of openness, not being judgmental, because that's really easy. Because as soon as you start to get into these questions arena, so if I were to turn around to you and say, why aren't you achieving your results, CK? I mean, immediately I'm coming over as really aggressive and, you know, argumentative and judgmental. How does that make you feel?
You know, I think a person like me would have handled these questions so many times in our own professional careers, and even at home. You know, I think in a family also such questions arise. But I fully agree with you. There is a way to question, and there is a way to answer, and I think that's a technique that everyone should learn.
And you're absolutely right. So you take the aggression out, take the finger pointing out, take the blame culture out, and ask very what I call third party questions. So this is, some people will say, work on the business. So imagine this isn't your business. So if you were to look at acquiring another business, you would have no judgment in your mind at all. You'd be saying, what are they doing here? How's that working? Is that a good fit? Immediately, you're asking questions. But as soon as you start to ask questions about your own business, oh, we screwed that up. Oh, we didn't do very well there. And the body language changes. So this is about what happened, not what did you do? You know, why did that fail? Those are real judgmental questions. So it really is an issue of forming the right question, having the can-do attitude to be objective. So when you've done a project, have a review. What went really well? What could we have improved? That's not being very personally critical or saying to anyone in the team, that was your fault. Even if it's good news, you know. So the good news and the bad news will come out anyway, but it will be non-judgmentally. I'm not saying this is easy, because if you've done it a different way all your life, guess what? you've got to change, which may be more difficult. But you can practice that, and you can practice that on your kids. So, what one thing, if your son comes up to you and said, "Can I watch more movies, Dad?" You know, if you were outside the yes and the no, what could you say to your child that would get him to think?
See,
Put you on the spot again. You see, you don't get off lightly here. You know.
so like the kids are doing negotiations, I think we are also doing negotiations. We'll say, okay, only one movie, not more. So it's like we are saying, yes, go ahead and watch your movie, but restrict to only one. So we are setting the conditions.
Okay. What about letting your son set the conditions?
Oh, they do all the time. They are the ones.
Of course they do. But what about when you say he says, "Dad, can I watch another movie?" And you say, "Well, why do you want to watch another movie?" Immediately puts him on the back foot. You know, he's a young child. You know, but the point is, each time he's asking questions, he's always got a yes and no answer. Most kids do. Parents are like that all the time. It's yes and no, because we want to get rid of it. These aren't really important issues that we're dealing with all the time. If it's important, you might think about it a bit more. And parents will either say, well, maybe. What's maybe? Maybe's not an answer at all, actually. In fact, my children would turn around and say, well, that means no then, because you haven't made a decision. So if you were to ask, and let's take it away from the children, let's take it into the business now. Someone comes up with, an employee comes up with, here's the answer. You know, you could actually turn around and say, well, what does it mean then? Really simple, you know. Now you've done the project, what does it mean? And by that way, you're getting them to think and getting them to grow. So we can do an awful lot internally asking questions so that the next time they come with a prepared thought process. Because if you're going to consistently say, so what does that mean? You know, if you were to do that again, how would you do it better? Immediately, you know, they're getting to think. More importantly, you're getting them engaged. And the more engaged your employees get, the more productive they become. They actually feel as though they're not just salaried and they're not just taking their wage every month, they're actually contributing to the organisation. So asking questions internally and be very open with the arena, you know, not argumentative, you know, not poking the finger, not being dictatorial. Asking, so what's happening? Why is this happening? What could we do better? Where did we go wrong? How can I help you improve next time? These are not, you know, not difficult questions to think of. And if you struggle with them, then go and write a few down and say, is that argumentative? You know, am I pointing a finger with that question? And practice it a bit, you know, and the more you practice, actually the easier it will be. So we're back to that little P again from yesterday, you know, practice, practice, practice. And it's the right practice that makes perfect. So practice these questions. Does this make sense? I mean, is it rocket science? Do you think it's hard to do?
It's not at all hard to do. In fact, it's very logical what you're saying. But interestingly, we are, at least, you know, what I've seen in my own circle, we are more diplomatic with our kids than our own employees. So we try to balance it out when we talk to kids. Hey, let's have a, you know, leading conversation. But with the employees, I think, or it's both ways. Even employees are, you know, don't talk to the boss in that same manner. So diplomacy is slightly less. It's more of a confinement.
Yep, I understand that. And but like anything else, if we're going to be collaborative moving forward, and and attract the right customer, the right client that's going to be a really good relationship, then again, you need to adopt the same approach. Ask questions. What's your problem? How have you solved it in the past? Did it make a long-term impact? Are you open to other considerations? Question, question, question. You know, when we're 3 years old, the only thing we've got in our mind is, I'm either happy with what I'm doing, or I'm going to ask a question because I want something else. So when we used to go on holiday, you know, all the kids would pile in the back of the car, and by the end of the street, one of us would say, are we nearly there yet? Have we got any sandwiches? Can I have a drink? We've just left the house. No? So within 100 yards, we're bored. You know, and then, you know, my parents, like every other parent, would say, well, let's play a game, I Spy. Well, that works for about half an hour. And then there's only so many lampposts that you can go past. You know, I Spy reminded like something with L, lamppost. Oh yes, Neville's turn. You know? So, but we constantly ask questions. Now's the opportunity to ask questions in the business. But again, it's a question of the focus of the question. Make it inanimate. And if you haven't done this in the past, because many people don't do this, write it down. Write down the question and say, is that judgmental? Is that argumentative? And if you think yes, then cross it out. Don't ask the question. And you'll come to a list of 5 or 6 that you can consistently ask. And when you're consistent with that questioning, your employees, your customers actually will think about a few of the answers before they come back to you. And then you can go back actually with the more detailed question, which is really going to get to the problem. Again, this is not rocket science. We don't have 14 years worth of questioning in school, but we do, because every child asks the teacher a question. We do 14 years of maths. In the maths lessons, there's questions, 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 questions. That's how we learn. It's not difficult to understand this. It's what you might call common sense, but make it your common practice. And the solution is simple. You know, you can go today, and everyone can go today and just write down some questions and see, I ask that question regularly. Is that argumentative? Is that pointing out a problem and blaming people? Am I the one to blame? You know, so cross the question out. Put another question. And this can be done really quickly. You just got to take a little bit of time out, a bit of introspection, and think. And then you can go to your team and say, every time we do a project, why don't we answer these questions? You know, did we enjoy what we did? Did we get the result we wanted? Notice the language. Did we, us. Hardly ever me and you. Does that make sense?
In fact, Neville, thank you for clearing my mind today. And I got an idea that, you know, once this session is over, I'm going to set up a process in my company where we will have a stand-up meeting every week, once a week, for an hour, where everybody can ask any question. No process.
A brilliant idea. Yeah.
Anything that comes to mind, please come and ask anyone.
Just brilliant. And once you start that off and you continue it, I'd like you to feedback, you know, write a blog, you know, do a little video about it. Get one of your employees to do a video about it. You know, how does it make them feel? Do they feel they're more engaged in the organization? Are they happier? Because happiness is a byproduct of something you're doing. if you're really in the zone and really enjoying what you're doing, of course you can be happy. Even when you're filling out a tax return, because you're doing it quickly, that makes me very happy because I can get the rubbish out of the way quickly and get on to more important things. So I think that's a fantastic idea, you know, and you've now said it and it's been recorded and you're going to put it out there. So now your employees are going to say, CK said this, we're going to make it happen.
Oh, definitely. So we will set up this as a process, because that's the whole point on discussing these things. If we can't practice it, what's the point? So I'm
Absolutely.
practice.
Absolutely. So, Q, you started off asking questions. We're going to finish asking a question to everybody. What are you going to do?
I will also ask the question. What else? I will
What
ask.
else? What else? Well, today was an easy cue. I don't think many people thought we would get to the question, but even so, we did. So now the issue is, what are you going to do? You know, take the advice. What are you going to do with it? Because it's important. So get on with it.
Yes, certainly. And it was such a nice session I had with you, Neville. Thank you so much for your time. And we'll catch up tomorrow again with another alphabet.
Another trip through the alphabet.
Certainly.
Take care, CK. Have fun. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
High five.
Hello friends, welcome to Akulmach Live. My name is Chandrakant. We are now experiencing the second wave of COVID, and a lot of people have got infected, and a lot of people got cured. The medical establishment facilities are running at full capacity at the moment, and because of this, doctors and the medical staff do not have time on their hand. At the same time, there are scarcity of supplies of vaccination, oxygen, and so on. So there are a whole lot of issues which are happening because of the number of patients reaching hospital. And in such a situation, what is the effect of the mental well-being of everyone, doctors as well as patient? This is something that we will discuss today in our show. But before that, a word on our giveaway. We have some unique Akulmach memorabilia which will make you look outstanding. The graphics on these corporate gifts are based on the global best business practices. To become recipient of one of these gifts for free, you have to watch this video till the end and provide your valuable comments. Or you can also share your experiences. The person who makes the best comment would be chosen to become a recipient of these beautiful Akulmach gift, absolutely free, delivered to your doorsteps. The winner would also get a chance to be invited live as a distinguished panelist during our next video. What are you waiting for, friends? Please subscribe Akulmach and smash that like button. Now let's get back to our discussion. Hello friends, today we will be discussing about the mental well-being from our guest Dr. Pooja Bedi, who joins us from Shimla. So let me present Dr. Pooja Bedi to you without further ado.
Greetings, CK. Hope you are doing fine. And this was nice to catch up with you.
Thank you, Dr. Pooja, for asking. In fact, everyone in my family is doing fine. All the adults have been given first jab. We are waiting for the second jab. I think we are waiting for the call to come from the hospital now after 1st of May. Otherwise, we are maintaining social distancing, following all the norms. We are all doing fine.
Great. That's really nice. Nice to hear.
Well, doctor, I think I want to ask you a very specific question today. which is related to the mental health, mental well-being of everyone, which is related to elders, middle-aged people, and also kids. We have seen the first wave. We have now seeing the second wave. And since you belong to the medical fraternity, you meet so many patients and doctors, and you have a lot of friends all over the place. What is the kind of difference in attitude you have noticed between the first wave and now?
Let me first start the conversation, CK. It's a wonderful question. We are very well familiar one of the term, that is adaptability. This is how and why the human race has been surviving and is still in the process of surviving in this pandemic. But during this adaptability of the phase, I myself have seen two drastic bifurcations in the attitude, you can say, of the human. When the first wave was there, and now we are undergoing the second wave of the COVID. In the first wave, we were more scared, we were more disciplined, we were more, taking precautions, we were getting ourselves more aware, we were more adaptable to many of the norms that were set by the government and many other factors. But when we are going through the second phase of the pandemic, there's a total reversal of all these things that have happened. You will see people have become less scared. That is fine if they are aware and they are following all the protocols. It is very good to stay aware. We have become less disciplined when it comes to, wear the mask in the proper manner, to follow the social protocols, to follow a diet, a regime that we were following in the first wave. Somehow you can see the dip has been there in the second wave as far as the attitude of the individual or the concerned population is in question. But the only thing, CK, that has not changed, in fact, we are just seeing a soaring in this, is the mental health issues. In the first wave also, we have seen number of cases of mental health issues. In fact, I would like to do a study sooner or later in which I really want to calculate the number of mental health issues as compared to the COVID, because people who were having COVID were having a mental health issues, people who were not having COVID were also having, mental health issues. They were scared, anxiety, irritability, and many other this peripheral kind of mental health issues were popping up. So the number of mental health issues have not changed. It's the same in the first and the second wave. But yes, correctly mentioned, attitude of the individual, or you can say the population, has changed drastically. So my humble request is there to follow a prescribed protocol, prescribed diet, a regime is very, very important to if we really want to combat this particular situation.
Well, doctor, usually when we go to hospital and we consult our doctors, they are very, very humble and very polite. They are usually listen to your problems very calmly. Even sometimes, patient vent out their anguish. They feel that, hey, you're not giving me right medication, or I'm not getting cured, or whatever you gave me has not worked. But I have never seen in my so many years of 20 years of going and meeting the doctors, I've never seen any doctor losing cool. I think they have been trained to do that. But something has happened in the last 15 days. There is so much of pressure that every doctor is in so much stress, and they themselves are losing cool. So I think the both parties, which is doctors and patient, are losing cool on each other, which is very, very different, which we don't see usually. What is your opinion on this observation of mine?
Yes, CK, it happens if you overuse a generator till the time it is giving you cooling by different electrical appliances, it is absolutely fine. But if you are going to overheat it, it's definitely going to have some kind of repercussions. So the same thing is happening. It's not that it is coming from the patient side. What I feel like, it is not that we are not used to the rush of the patients in the IPDs, OPDs. They're pretty used to that. So this is not a big question. But the question is, when you don't have the resources, so if you don't have the resources, how are you going to cater for the people who are actually looking at you for a need? And if you are not able to fulfill that, it somehow definitely will generate some kind of anguish. So the conflict, the reason behind the conflict for whatever is happening between doctor and patient is not because between them actually, it is the non-availability or the very low amount of availability of the resources in terms of, you can say, oxygen supply, in terms of vaccination, so and many other things. PPE kits for them, the kind of hygiene facilities they require at their front, those are lacking. So all these factors which are contributing is actually leading to this kind of conflict. But there has, I don't think there has been a direct conflict during this pandemic between the doctor, physicians, with their patients. This is the profession, and we should be dealing with it in a more gentle and a humble manner. But it's a resource and resourcefulness which is uh, doing all this stuff.
Yes, doctor, I think I agree with you because there are overwhelming crowd at the hospitals, and different hospitals have different processes to manage the crowd, crowd management and all that. Eventually, everything lands at the table of the doctor, and doctors are aware of the situation more than the patient because the background of what is going on. Doctors are much more aware. They have a network, so they feel sometimes helpless, and because of that they are losing cool, it looks like. But patient must also keep calm because this is a pandemic that we are dealing with, and it's an act of god. It is something that nobody has control. End of the day, even doctor has come from us only. We are all human beings. So if I'm a patient, doctor is also a human being, so we have to treat the doctor also like a human. Considering all these things, what is your two letter mantra for patient as well as doctor to maintain their mental peace?
CCK, first, for doctors, though, it's very difficult for me to recommend anything, but only to have patience. We have to be very precise with the kind of conversation we have, since we don't have time so much these days. So it has to be very precise, of a shorter duration. And yes, some kind of resources are to be made available by the government and at the end of the hospital itself and the pharmaceutical companies. For doctors to maintain peace, they don't have time for that, CK. At least till the time we don't see the peak of the second wave, which is expected to come in next couple of weeks. So somehow we have to be on our toes, and which is pretty fine. This is what the soldiers have been doing it since so many years, for our country. So we can be on our toes as well. So it's not a big deal. But coming down to patients specifically, see, first, CK, the factor is the knowledge, the kind of knowledge and the kind of correct facts are there in it. Till the time the correct facts and the logical facts are there, it is fine. But when they are mixed with the unlogical and the things which are more mythical in nature, they tend to somehow generate some kind of irritability and anxiety in the patients. So my request to all the people, first, is to please be nicely aware of what exactly is happening. Be prepared for the unpredictability that is happening. The only thing we can predict these days and for next couple of months is the unpredictability of the pandemic, how it is going to go into what way it is going to turn out to. So be aware, please be very well prepared for the kind of unpredictable predictable situations that are going to come. How we can handle is a thing. Now, CK, when the first wave was there, we were adapting in nature. Now, in the second wave, we have already adapted to the changes. My own parents and in-laws were not very apt with the virtual media usability, but now they both are actually, at both the ends, they are very apt calling on WhatsApp or Zoom calls or any virtual media calls. So now we have adapted with the time span of good 1 odd year. So when talking specifically of the children, the schools are open, so fixed scheduling, a good timetable is to be maintained. See, 4 5 hours are already gone in the school, then homework consumes some time. So as a parent, it becomes a responsibility to give them some time for the recreational activity as well. The exams times are coming, we can't just push them for one odd thing, studying all this thing. But the social factors, since the physical communication is also not there with the kids, so it becomes a very crucial responsibility on the parts of the elders in the family to look after children in a manner where they can actually spend a good quality time on recreational activity. CK, if please I may add, one of my friend's son is in class 10 and he has already got one or certification animation. So this is how the kids are smart these days. So it's a very good time where we can adopt to a skill, and since the time is there with us, we can actually make it applicable as well. So I highly endorse to please go for kind of skill development, and there are government portals actually. If I'm not incorrect, I think Swayam portal is there by the government, in which it is so cost effective. Some of the courses are in fact free of cost. So and many more sites are there from where they can do the skill development probably after seventh or sixth class onward. So this is how they can actually engage themselves mentally, physically as well. But on the physical aspect, it's very crucial to make them do some kind of exercise and meditation. Very, very important to generate the patience that they require. You know, talk to them. Let the communication be there. Don't block the communication. Even if we are working there, we were working prior to this pandemic as well. So the same scenario is there now. We have to uh, spend the same time with the kids and elders in the family in order to bring the mental peace in them. And trust me, when you're doing good as a parent, if you're putting ticks on all the responsibilities that you are doing, it somehow brings the kind of satisfaction and mental peace for the parents or the elders in the family as well. So it's become very crucial how to handle the kids, but it has become also a boon. It's been a year. They are more used to virtual media. They are more active on it. They know better things than us. They are, making apps and they are doing so many things. But the main pressure, I think, basically is on the parents. Elders in the family, they are also happy, enjoying learning the new skills or new apps or some new tech features. But when it comes to parents, especially working parents, I'm talking about, it has become a very monotonous kind of lifestyle for them. So my recommendation for them is to please don't cut off your diet. When you have a very fulfilling, nice, rich diet, we tend to feel very happy. So have a relaxed meal at least twice a day. One can be a little hodgepodge, but the couple of meals are to be a very good relaxed meal, especially for mothers. And take bath every day. It soothes the body if possible, considering the conditions. Please take it couple of times. It relaxes the mind and the body. Maintain the hygiene. It's very important to maintain the hygiene because of the pandemic and for the other factors as well. By the hygiene, I'm not just concentrating on one factor, taking bath, but how we cook food, how we prepare meal, and how we serve it. So these are all become very crucial factors when it comes to the hygiene. So it's very crucial to cater for the mental health of the kids and of the middle age group and of the elders. There's one last point that I would like to add. If in the family we see there's a gradual, now there's not a sudden mental changes that are coming, the gradual mental changes that are coming. So if you are witnessing in your family somebody is talking less, somebody is not having meals properly, somebody is not taking bath, has become suddenly or gradually lethargic, not wanting to dress themselves, and the usual thing they were doing and now they are not doing, it's an indicator that needs to be catered for on priority.
I think this is a good indicator, doctor. I think what you are saying is absolutely very, very sensible, and it is a very good generic advice for everyone, every human being, whether you are a senior guy or a middle-aged person or even a kid. And you rightly pointed out that there is a department of the government which is called Skill Development Corporation of India, which is a government body, and they have tied up with IBM, and they them together are providing a lot of skills for free. There is not even a penny charged. So people, especially kids who are below 21, they can actually go and register for various skills available from Skill Development Corporation of India. Absolutely free. And I think one of the skill is a digital skill. which even the elders can join the program and acquire. So I think the only thing that I get from this conversation is to maintain mentally fit, you have to engage your mind in something new. You have to learn something new, which you have not done. Maybe you want to do carpentry. People like us can get into creating some furnitures and those kind of skills. What do you have to say about that?
Yes, CK, you just telepathically something just went into your mind, which was going in my mind. I always wanted to learn the skills of a barber. I really enjoy cutting hair, but because of some reason, everybody in the family was scared getting a haircut from me. You know, so but now it's been a year, and I am giving haircut to everyone in the family. So yes, there are so many things that we wanted to learn from our own, and this is one of the skill that I've developed recently. It's been a year now, and I really love to do it, and it's totally free of cost how I have learned it. It's just the YouTube videos that were available, so I just watched couple of them and then just tried and tested kind of thing happened. And this is how we can actually utilize some different tech channels and also channelize our energy which is just lying like this, or the procrastination. It can be channelized into such a wonderful skill that we can develop. Let it be anything, let it be singing, let it be writing kavitaएं, poems, so many things we can do. They don't involve any cost, and in fact they actually involve the participation of the family member, which is so great. So maybe simple painting, something, some of these kind of gestures, they make you mentally engaged, physically engaged, and when they get socially appreciated, or even if the family people are appreciating it, you get socially engaged also. So all kind of mental health needs are being catered. Just getting yourself mentally occupied by learning a skill that you really wanted to learn, or if the time is demanding, or your situation is such that the kids are wanting you to learn it, it's very apt. Learning anytime make you mentally active.
Doctor, I think I would like to share one of my personal experience with you. This is like last month or maybe 40 days back. One of the light in the studio from where I'm actually speaking with you got, it basically there was no way to repair it. It actually got spoiled. So what to do? We have to create a studio light for ourselves, and then with little application of our gray matter, which is between our ears, I was able to find out what is the way out, and I converted this deliberately to engage with the kids and made it as a DIY project using the old dish antenna. Because what you actually need is to make a parabola and use that parabola to send the light waves in a parallel beams instead of scattering them like a bulb. So then, by stroke of luck, we had a couple of old dish antennas lying on the roof. We went with the kids, three of us went up and selected one of them, cleaned it, polished it, made the surface shine like a mirror, put a very a small bulb, LED light, and voila, we had a studio light up and running. And that is still, I mean, this is on this my left hand side. This light is actually giving light to my face right now. So I think what you told us today made a lot of sense. I think we need to do things as a family. I think we should also develop some games which all of us can play, kids, elders, and even the middle-aged people. So all three generations can play, sit together on a dining table and play some games. I think this is what is required. I actually learned this from you after talking to you today.
I really appreciate. There's so many things I keep on learning from you, CK, and many other friends of mine, and people who are stranger to us on media, virtual media. It's so grateful. We should be grateful to God. So my last message, CK, is to everyone: please follow the social protocols. Those are very important. Even in spite of you getting infected once in the first wave or in the second wave, please be responsible for the people who are around you. Second, please follow a very good diet. Don't do dieting. and don't be so much worried about getting couple of kgs in next 2 3 months. You will have enough of the time to lose it on. Please, but consider the comorbidity factors in this case. Follow a regime, uh, exercise pattern, some mild things, and as CK yourself very correctly mentioned, family involvement, which is no cost effective. There's no cost involved, and no time, so you can flexible timings can be catered for this particular activity. So great going. Please do the family activities so that you are socially, mentally, physically engaged. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Thank you, Doctor. And I will update you what games that we have invented in our next episode. Until then, I'd like to say goodbye for today and only to catch you in the next episode next week.
Thank you so much, CK. Thank you.
Hello friends, I am Kanchan from Akulmach Technologies and you are welcome to our series Great Kings of India. Today we have a very prominent historian, Mrs. Binda Paranjpe, who is professor at Banaras Hindu University. So today we'll be discussing about another great king, Pulkeshin II. So before we start, I would like to welcome Bindaji. Bindaji, welcome to our show. How are you today?
Feeling great talking to you once again.
Yeah, happy Republic Day, ma'am.
Happy Republic Day to you and all our viewers.
Yes, so we are discussing about Pulkeshin II, who was one of the famous ruler of Chalukya dynasty of Vatapi. And during his time, Chalukya kingdom expanded to cover most of the Deccan region of peninsula of India. So I would like to listen more about this great king today.
Right. To begin with, let me say a few words about this very dynasty. After the disintegration of the Satavahanas, that was one of the mighty kingdoms of Deccan. And by Deccan, what we mean is that present day parts of Maharashtra, or rather you can say entire Maharashtra, parts of Karnataka, parts of Telangana. So this entire region was under the Satavahanas. And when the Satavahanas became weak, many of the smaller regions, they declared their independence, and gradually the kingdom of the Chalukyas of Vatapi. Vatapi is present Badami, that is near Bijapur in Karnataka. That emerged as one of the powerful kingdoms of this region. So now the seat of power that was there in the Godavari region, Nasik and Pratishthan, that is Paitan, that shifted towards Karnataka. The Chalukyas, they claim their origin from the sage who from his chulluka, means the joint palms. And when he was offering water by joining the palms, he got a child in it. And because this origin is from the chulluka, that is the palms, that family got the name Chalukyas. Now, this is something which is very interesting to know. That means that probably, the origin of this dynasty was not very respectful. That's why the real progenitors of this family are shrouded in mystery and a myth that emerged. And in this family, one of the mightiest rulers was Pulakeshin II, because one earlier ruler was also there with the same name, Pulakeshin. And this Pulakeshin II was actually, he had to fight a civil war. In a sense, when his father died, he was the eldest son and he should have got the throne by the rule of ancient polity. But his uncle was taking care of the kingdom since this Pulakeshin II was very young. And then when he came to an age when he could have taken the responsibility of the kingdom, the uncle thought of continuing with his power and then hand it over to his son. And that Pulakeshin II had to fight, and he fought for his legitimate claim on the throne, and that's how he became the ruler of the Chalukyas. So at this point, I would like to know what exactly you would like to know more about this
Yeah,
king.
actually, I've also read somewhere that his major victory was with the powerful northern empire Harshvardhan. And when we were discussing about Harshvardhan, he himself was very, very powerful. So want to know what are those military skill which Pulkeshin II acquired to really defeat a great king Harshvardhan?
Right. Now, this is a very interesting question, and that certainly highlights the skill of Pulakeshin II as a king, not only as the effective commander of his army, not only a skillful warrior, but he was also a good negotiator. So, and strategic planning was his, I think, forte, something very special about him. What did he do before he confronted Harshavardhan? On the western side of India, that is present regions of Gujarat and northern parts of coastal Maharashtra, he brought those areas under his control so that Harsha from that side will not get any direct help. And then there was the confrontation with Harshavardhan. So this is something very interesting. And I think this shows that his strategic planning, in addition to his military skill, must have been really fruitful on his side. His army also was coupled with navy. Certainly, Harshavardhana was not having any boundaries of his kingdom on the seaside, but the kingdoms which were there near the sea coast, they were brought under the control by having both these attacks, the land route attack and the sea route attack. And they were brought under the control. And then there was a confrontation with Harshavardhan. Though history is not very clear about it, that when exactly this war was fought and whether there was actually any war or not, that also some historians have doubted. But if we go by the sources available in our hand from the side of Pulakeshin II, then we know that the war was there and it was on the side of Pulakeshin. The victory was on the side of Pulakeshin II. Very interesting line that we get in one of the inscriptions. This inscription is at Aihole, one of the very important places in the kingdom of Pulakeshin II. And that inscription reads that, see, in ancient times, military strength, power was certainly the elephant core. The elephants were very important in the actual combat in the war. And Harsha's elephants were a large number of them were wounded and killed by the army of Pulakeshin II. And then the line in the inscription says that the Harsha of Harshavardhana was taken away because of the pitiable sight of the fallen elephants on the war scene. Now, this is it gives us a little clue about it, that how elephants must have been very important for this war.
Yeah, so Bhima once I happened to visit Ajanta Caves, and in Ajanta Caves number 1, there is a fresco which depicts Pulkeshin receiving some gift from Persian envoy, I mean, some minister from Persia. So I'm sure the trade ties with other countries must be very prominent and must have been developed by Pulkeshin II. So I would like to know what type of this relationship was there with other countries at the time of Pulkeshin II.
Right, right. See, as I was telling you that the western coast was under the rule of the Chalukyas. Initially, it was under the rule of Mauryas, but Chalukyas, they took it over from the Kadambas, from the Mauryas, then from the kingdoms which are there on the Gujarat Saurashtra side. This was mainly because the trade via Western Sea, and Chalukyas, especially Pulakeshin, was smart enough to see the importance of these coastal uh, trading centers and ports to be under his control. And this trade, that must have brought a lot of wealth to the kingdom of the Chalukyas. And then the Chalukyas wanted to have further trade relations with the kingdom of Persia. So Persian or Iranian, this was Khusro II, that was the king. We get the name of it from the Persian sources. And he sent one embassy to Pulakeshin II with a lot of precious gifts. And also there was one envoy that was sent to a convoy that was sent to the court of Khusro II on part of Pulakeshin II also. So there was an exchange of these trade councils, and that certainly must have been for strengthening the trades. And subsequently, the Chalukyas continued with this policy for some time, because it was not only Pulakeshin II, but his successors also continued with their relation with Iran. And if we compare it with the times of Harshavardhana and the rule of Harshavardhana, then the way Harshavardhana was sending his commissions to China and strengthening his trade relations with China. So on the other side, we see Pulakeshin was trying to do it with Iran. And that's how India becoming a very important trading center on both the sides of the globe. Like on the eastern side, it was with China, and on the west. And it is not just Persia then, because through Persia and through the trade routes, it was with Europe also. And all that trade was mainly under the Arabs. But Indian rulers, they had good relations with these Arab traders also, and they got the benefit of that trade.
Yeah,
Very
it
important
seems,
economic activity.
yes. So it seems that Pulkeshin II had multiple rivals from the beginning, and due to his due to his war skill, he was able to overcome all that. And I would like to ask you what about his views on religion at that point of time.
Yeah, it's very interesting that he himself followed Vaishnavism, and he took a title Parama Bhagavata. Bhagavata, Parama Bhagavata means a great devotee of Vishnu. So definitely he was a Vaishnavite. And Chalukyas, by and large, we have seen that most of the Chalukyan kings, they followed Vaishnavism. But the inscription that I was mentioning, it is in a Jain temple. The temple was created for the worship of Jina, that is Jain, place of worship. And the person who has composed the eulogy of the king mainly mentions the creation of that Jain temple. And he gives the credit of it to his overlord, that is Pulkesin II. Now that shows that even when he himself was a Vaishnava follower, he encouraged Jainism. He encouraged a scholar who was Jain by his religious tradition and accepted the other faiths. Like we see in case of Ashoka, in his inscriptions, he says that all the different religious followings are welcomed by Ashoka. Now that similar kind of policy you can see here. I will add to it that this was a time when the great Chinese pilgrim Yuan Song, who was traveling in India, he also had visited the kingdom of Pulkesin II because he was a contemporary of Harshavardhana. And as he describes Harshavardhana's lot of characters and shows that how his kingdom was prosperous, he also is generous in his descriptions about Pulkesin II's capital city and many provisions that state does for the welfare of the people. He also has described a lot of Buddhist monasteries in this region flourishing. Now, if this kind of approach to religion and accepting different religious followings as the choice of the people, probably this would not have been possible. So we can say that Pulkesin II definitely shows a great cultural value of accepting diversity, religious diversity, and has promoted it also. Because this inscription, it is composed by Ravi Kirti, and this Ravi Kirti very proudly mentions that he is a Jain follower and he is in the court of Pulkesin II.
So when Pulkesin II was ruling, so primarily it can be understood that he was a great general. He was very tolerant towards people, and he became popular among his subject because he took care of the subject. So what is the impact of his rule when we really see on the southern part of India, the peninsula? Because I see that he is a vast empire. He conquered vast empire. Mostly whole of, leaving few parts, whole of Indian peninsula.
Right. One direct impact that we can see is on the northwestern side, one of the branch of the Chalukyas got established because he appointed a person from his family as a governor of that region, and subsequently that became an independent kingdom. And on the eastern side, where you can say that the mouth of Godavari, that region, which is called Vengi, and there also he appointed his own family person as a governor. And then there also we can see a kingdom of the Chalukyas that emerged. So it was not just the heartland where the main capital city and the surrounding region of the Chalukyas was there. Two very important houses of the Chalukyas. So when the Badami Chalukyas were not so powerful, these kingdoms still continued, flourished, and they became the torchbearers of the Chalukyan culture. So that is very interesting that you can see one of the impacts, that the lasting impact that we can see politically, that this happened. But other than that, I would like to mention one thing, that Pulkesin, major part of his life was fighting. He was on war. So I doubt whether he really got much time to consolidate his empire and give some innovative ideas in his administration, because most of the times he was at war. And second, his war against the Pallavas, that proved to be a very challenging affair for the Chalukyas. Like if we can say that something that happened because of the policies of Pulkesin II, good on part of the continuity of the Chalukyan rule on the eastern side of the Benghis or on the northwestern side by way of Chalukyas of Gujarat. But if we talk about the main rule of the Chalukyas, the seat of power, then his policy of aggression and a constant war against the Pallavas proved very negative or detrimental to the sustenance or continuity of this rule. Because his war against the Pallavas, initially he won the war, and there is a nice poetic description that the Pallava king was forced to lock himself into his capital city of Kanchi, that is present Kanchipuram or Kanchipuram. But that king was Mahendravarman, the Chalukyan king. But subsequently, his son, he fought against the Pulakeshin II thrice at 3 different places. And all the 3 places are actually within the Pallava territory, which means that Pulakeshin II was invading, trying to get the region of the Pallavas under his control again and again. And that was not probably the right kind of decision on his part, because Pallavas were also very powerful rulers. They had major part of the Deccan under their control, the southernmost part under their control. So Mahendravarman first, of course, could not succeed against Pulakeshin II, but his son Narasimhavarman, he succeeded, and succeeded to the extent that he reached right up to the capital city of the Pulakeshin II, that is Vatapi. He destroyed that city, and in the war, Pulakeshin II got killed also.
Oh.
And this Narasimhavarman, he engraved an inscription in Vatapi, marking his history over the capital city of their arch enemy. And he took a title for himself as the conqueror, the destroyer of Vatapi. He took the title Vatapi Kund. Now we can see that after this, it took a long time for the Chalukyas to once again gain their strength. And of course, the subsequent rulers succeeded for some time again to have a major part of Deccan under their control. But it gave a big blow to the empire that was created by Pulakeshin II. So on one side, we see him as a very, very successful ruler, and he had lots of victories to his credit, and the highest probably can be against Harshavardhan. But on the other side, his ambition to conquer the Pallava territory was misplaced, and that became one of the reasons for the setback to this kingdom of the Chalukyas. Other than that, I would like to mention 2-3 other things about this king. See, in ancient polity, we read some of